There we go.
All right, we're back. I am unmuting you. There we go. How's it going?
Thank you. Thank you.
There we go.
It's going pretty well. How about you?
I am fine. It's been a rough week. We're doing a bunch of training for work, and I am developing the training program on bleeding edge hardware, software, documentation. It's a little bit like opening night for a play. If you've ever worked backstage at a play, everything is fine, I assure you. Oh, you there? And her audio's gone. All right. We'll see how it goes. There's no worries. She's having some technical issues. It's not a big deal. I wanted to talk about a very interesting video that came up on Twitter the other day, or whatever they're calling it. I refuse to call it X. I'm just going to call it Twitter until the day I die. This is an interesting video, but we're going to get into it in a little bit. First thing I want to do is I actually wanted to weigh in on this Carl Benjamin post. Here, let me present my screen. I want to share screen. There we go. Let's see if I can find the root of it. There we go. Yeah. Here we are. Yes. So Carl Benjamin starting some S by saying that Mexican food is atrocious, absolutely atrocious. That's an opinion, by the way. You can't disagree with someone's. I mean, I suppose you can disagree with someone's opinion, but if he thinks it's atrocious, it's atrocious. What are you going to do? The chilies are there to hide the taste of poor quality ingredients, not enhance the flavor. A general statement. And I think this is evidenced by the fact that you would never find hot chilies, like really hot chilies, at a really high-end restaurant. So, yeah, there you go. I mean, but so people think that hot has a flavor. Hot doesn't actually have a flavor. It's actually just pain. Like when someone's eating hot food, it's just pain. It exposes your nerves. It's like saying that the chemical inside of mint has a flavor, the one that sort of exposes your nerves in your mouth a little bit and makes it feel like super cold. If you have a bunch of mint and you eat something that's really warm, it's going to taste really warm. If you have something that's going, well, not taste, but it's going to feel really warm. If you have something that's really cold, it's going to feel really cold. All it's doing is exposing sensitivity of your nerves. But that's mint. This is spicy food. It is destroying your nerves. Oh, here you go. See if she can get back in. Hey, lady. How's it going? Enjoy the... Oh, no, I was being really misogynist. I was going to be really misogynistic. Enjoy, man, the luxury of a woman who cannot speak. That's so bad. I like hearing ladies' voices. They're always so chipper and high-pitched and lovely. Spicy food just overwhelms your nervous system. It burns it. You actually cannot taste as much. I would love to see if someone has a palate after eating a hot pepper. Like, can you have a sommelier eat a really hot pepper and then even taste any of the wine at all? Okay, so what he's saying here, Carl Benjamin is saying, is just an objective fact. Okay, so that's the objective fact of it. Now, I believe the word... Let's see if the word slop comes up. Slop. Oop. There we go. Slopgate. Yeah. So he's saying it's slop. If you look at Mexican food, I'd say typically, what is slop? What is the nature of the slop? Let's ask ourselves, what is slop? Slop can taste really good, by the way. If you ever feed a pig a bunch of slop, they love it. They love the slop. We want the slop. We want the slop. LadyOLinden, I think I can hear you clicking, so your audio might actually be working.
I think I'm finally back in. I just had to switch to a different device, and this one's usually a bit more reliable with its connection. The other one just was not working with me at all today, so I had to give up.
It's no worries. It's no worries. Your audio sounds lovely, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good. You know, by the way, men, you must abide a woman when she is fashionably late, but in this case, sounding great. So patience is the key. The reward is in heaven. Sometimes, luckily, you don't have to be so patient as to wait until you die to get your treasures. Here we have LadyOLinden. I don't know if you caught any of that, but if I was to put this into a 2-sentence little bit here, I was just talking about the nature of spicy food and why
Oh, yeah.
spicy food is objectively not. Okay, what is the nature of good? Okay, that's the first thing. Is like what. So obviously, atrocious is going to be the opposite of good. I think we can all agree on that, right? What is
More
the
or
nature of
less,
good? Yeah. I would say it's pretty. I think it's if someone said, "Hey, you look atrocious," it'd probably be the opposite of good.
Yeah, that's not usually taken very well. The only thing I could argue is that good could be seen, at least sometimes, as not necessarily the best, but still like positive, whereas atrocious is like an
Not
extreme
fully,
negative.
Not fully on the spectrum. Exactly. And here's the thing: is can something be good and atrocious? I suppose. Oh well, that's why I'm getting to the definition of good. What is one man's good? If you, let's say, I gave you a gray goo to eat, and then you ate it, and it tasted satisfying, like it had the right combination of carbohydrates, fats, all that stuff. But there was no artistry put into it. There was no real care put into it. It was literally slopped onto your plate, and it tasted satisfying. It was like you're eating it's satisfying in the way that like maybe a fast food burger might be.
Right.
Yeah.
The pink slime or whatever of McDonald's that makes their burgers.
There you go. Yeah, that makes the chicken nuggets, right?
Yeah, whatever it was.
In fact, I'm going to say it. There's pink slime good. All right, so chicken nugget. Yeah. Okay,
well,
so we have to tear apart what good means.
Well, I don't think it's what
good
means. I think it's sorry. That's at my house. Family's all home, 3-day weekend, etc. But no, the thing is, there are different qualities that can be good. So what's good for you and what tastes good aren't always the same.
That's good. That's correct. But and I would add to that too. You're absolutely right. I didn't even think about the good for you part, but and I'd say that Mexican food is probably not good for you. So it definitely is not good in that
Normally,
respect.
no.
Okay?
It does taste good usually, though. So I saw Mr. Benjamin's whole thing about this as well. And it's like, I don't know how to feel about this. I'm a little called out here.
I think it's a matter of the definition of good, which is I'm going to say is the opposite of atrocious. He says it's atrocious. People say it's good. There is pink slime good, which is bodily satisfying, and then there is good, as in this is morally good. And I want to say that typical things are imbued with moral goodness. There's a very weird thing for a Westerner, especially if they're materialistic. But everything that you do has some spiritual quality to it, some metaphysical quality. And what that means is that you're putting some care into it. And
right.
You might say like, oh, that doesn't exist. If I'm thinking good vibes while I'm building something, it doesn't make a difference.
Well, it's like the butterfly effect, isn't it? One little thing plays out into everything else. So if you do one good thing, then there can be more good to come from it that you're not even aware of necessarily.
Well, it might be that. But mine is a bit more grounded than that even. It's just that good aesthetics come from passionate work, putting yourself into it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's all it means. So to demystify everything I said, so putting some moral importance on what you do makes you put more passion into it, I would say. If I say, oh, this is some stuff I need to do to make some money, you know, I'm a vendor on a street cart in the West, then it's just slop. I'm just here to make the money. The customer feels good in their belly and they walk away and I have some money. And then there's moral good. And if you look at Japanese society, they put a lot of moral importance on everything, which is why their society is so aesthetically pleasing.
Right. Well, it's quite appealing to Westerners too, as well.
Well, they see the difference. They see the difference, absolutely.
Even if they don't realize what it is necessarily, I argue.
And that is why. So this is the best picture of. This is the picture that someone put forward as, oh, this is good Mexican food. Now there's a lot of stuff going on here. It looks
busy? Nice. An assault on the senses.
A little bit, yes. I mean, how can you really taste the shrimpiness of the shrimp, right? How can you taste the tanginess of the lime? How can you taste anything in there? It's all mixed together. It says
right.
So the moral good that this is failing to achieve is that it's not elevating any of the ingredients. It's kind of mixing them all together.
Yeah, well, not only that too, but as someone who has grown up with sensory disorder related stuff in my symptoms and sensory overload included. One of the things I've always struggled with as an American, even with the local foods and stuff, is everything is so extremely flavorful that it's hard to find something that isn't totally bland or bankrupt of any flavor that still tastes good without being overwhelming and just too much. I've been told when I cook that normally, apparently it's not tasteful enough or whatever. It doesn't have enough taste. It's kind of boring, but I find it perfect. And some people do I've shared my cooking with find it a relief because it's just not as offensively taste this, taste that, taste it all at the same time and overwhelming in that way.
So I follow professional chefs
Oh.
a lot. I love cooking. It's a passion of mine.
Good.
Do you know what, when they say this needs more spice, do you know what they mean? What does that mean?
Are you covering something up?
No.
Oh, I don't know then.
Take a guess. Yeah. What if someone says, "Hey, this needs more spice," what do you put in it?
Salt?
It's salt, exactly. It's just
yeah,
salt.
that's not a spice, I don't think, but
No, it's not a spice. But the thing is, when they say we need to spice this up, salt brings out the flavor in things.
oh,
Salt brings out the flavor. It makes it taste more like itself.
gotcha.
So if I salt some beef,
Mhm.
it's going to make the beef taste beefier.
Ooh.
If you salt, yeah. So if you don't add salt to things that you're doing, this is one of the main mistakes that almost said Philistine, dilettante cooks will do, is they don't put enough salt in. They don't put it in there early enough.
Oh.
So people say like, "Ooh, spice. Let's put some hot stuff on it." Hot stuff destroys it damages your nerves. It's when you
your
taste
guts too, yeah.
Oh yeah, that too. But when you taste something spicy, it's actually you're just tasting pain. It's literally just pain. It's not a flavor. It's a sensation, but it's not a flavor. It reduces the flavor of everything because it's deadening your nerve.
Oh, that makes sense.
So yeah, these people who are like want spicy food, they've just destroyed their palate, is what's happened.
Well, and
So,
if you're
'cause I was
raised on that, you don't have a chance, I guess.
No, you don't. And which means you don't get a seat at the table of saying what is good food. It's like if I blasted my ears out listening to really loud music, and now I'm trying to like listen in on a beautiful opera adagio, and it's like I can't really hear the subtleties of her voice and her resonances because my ears are blown out from doing heavy metal.
Yeah.
Like I get it. You're raised that way, but your opinion is literally less valuable.
Right.
What you've done. What
it's
been
not
done
your
to you.
fault. It just is what it is.
Yeah, and people try to conflate a lack of quality of a person with fault. It's like, no, it's usually not someone's fault that they are.
I've noticed that trend too, that where people are like, oh, if you're saying I didn't get to have this and so I don't have anything of value in that way, you're just saying I'm a terrible person. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that due to the sad fact of reality that some people miss out on things that disqualifies them from other realms, you're just not useful here.
You're not qualified. Exactly. You're not tall enough. You don't have the right facial
Right.
structure. You don't have this. You don't have that. And it's totally, men get told this all the time. We're super used to it.
It's not inherently bad. It's just what it is. And we can't be soft on that sort of stuff. You just got to toughen up and get over it.
Yeah, it shouldn't even be a thing you need to toughen up on. It's just, can you deal with reality?
Well, these days,
Can you do?
though.
Yeah, these days, sure. Like it's just that these people can't deal with the reality that the spicy food, what they call spicy, with pretty much all the hot chemical burning out their taste buds.
Yeah, what capsaicin
precludes them,
or something?
I think it's capsaicin. And it precludes them from having an opinion, really.
Well, yeah, and because recently I've been planning a trip to England, and my family and some friends have been like, "Oh, I've heard their food is really bland and awful, though." It's like, I've heard some different opinions from actual English folk that I know, so I'm excited to try it.
all the stupidest things in the world are usually start with the phrase "I've heard."
Well, that too.
I never listen to any of that anymore. I'm like, I heard. It's like, okay, heard from who? And they usually can't tell you. Then it's
exactly.
Foundation of the sciences is being, and rational thought is being able to cite your source.
Yeah, like, unlike the modern day concept of science where everyone agrees and we've all just heard from this vague source that put it out into the ether and we have to agree and comply or else.
Correct. The far end of that spectrum is no good either. Yeah, so for slop, what is the definition of slop? I would say it's a kind of formless, flavorless. Well, the flavors are all mixed. Slop is when none of the ingredients are able to actually stand out and be their own flavor. It all just gets added into this slurry that is all the same. If I took a random bite of this dish, I mean, unless I got a lime, or got a shrimp that didn't have much stuff on it, I probably wouldn't taste anything particularly unique. Like if I ate a piece of the rice and it had a bit of shrimp in it, I might not notice.
Right.
It's not a good thing.
Right.
So there's no moral value in it. It's just like, here's some food. It makes you feel good. It's entirely for pleasure. It's a hedonistic food category. It's not has no aesthetic value, I'd say. So, I mean, slop is also good though. You can have good slop.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and you can love stuff that's atrocious. Like I have a weakness for, yeah.
We all eat fast food, don't we?
Most of it. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's Slopgate. That's my opinion on that. Carl is correct. Everyone's having trouble with it.
Like
and you
normal.
can kind of see. Exactly. And I think you can kind of see. Oh, I cannot see the ratio. Oh, no. Okay, so I see quotes, likes, all that stuff. I'm going to bookmark this, actually. Here's my bookmarks folder, by the way.
Oh.
Modern Women, Just Funny, Hard Truths. I'm going to put it under Hard Truths.
Wait, we have bookmarks folders on Twitter, X, whatever? I didn't even know. I just bookmark everything and say, I'll get to this later. And I forget to go back.
If you pay for it, you do.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I haven't.
Yep.
Yet.
Actually, it's got a funny thing. One of these days, I'm gonna have to have a stream where I just go through my bookmarks. But here's my Modern Women bookmarks. I want to talk about this woman.
Oh yes, that woman.
Talk about this woman. All right. Let me.
I have opinions on her.
All right.
They are not nice.
Let's give her a minute. I've muted it.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. I'll speak over this a little bit. My wife has a phrase that you should be thankful because there are people who are praying for the problems that you have.
Mm-hmm.
There is a woman who can't pay her bills, or a woman who is barren. There's a woman whose husband died. There's a woman who has suffered maybe had a child die, right? Had a miscarriage.
Right.
How do you think those people feel when they watch this?
Like she's super ungrateful instead of just regular ungrateful.
Correct. The ingratitude. I love how, by the way, that you have to blur people's feet on the internet.
I mean, I'm not shocked.
He looks like he actually has that business face on. Like this is business face.
Oh yeah.
That's the face I make when I'm texting someone at work.
Oh.
So there's another spin on this. He might actually be working. Like he might be busy doing something important.
Work contact or something.
I mean, he doesn't look like he's relaxing.
He doesn't. No, actually, when you look at his face, or even how he's holding his shoulders, I'd argue.
Yeah, he looks like he's pretty tense. It looks like him and his wife just had a fight, maybe. I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know.
With her being that way, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah. So, ladies, if you have a grievance, don't post it on TikTok.
Don't even tell your friends most of the time.
No,
Don't tell your moms. Don't tell your friends. If you have sisters, probably best to not tell them.
If you feel like you have to tell them, then definitely don't tell them.
Yeah.
If you feel like it, unless it's like of course, every woman brings this up. What if he's hitting her? Should I tell him then? It's like, that's not what we're talking about.
Exactly.
Sit down.
Different. And if you have a woman in your life who's, already been through this stuff or has a good, proper, healthy relationship, family life dynamic going, then sure, sometimes you can ask for advice and guidance. How do I make sure I do this right? Or this kind of bothered me. What should I do before this would actually become a huge problem? But for the most part, otherwise, you got to offer things up from time to time. And this would be one of them.
Correct. Running to social media instead of actually talking to your husband has got to be one of the silliest things in the world.
It's the worst.
Absolutely.
I used to be that way in relationships I had years ago. It was so bad. And I don't even have the accounts anymore that I did those on. I deleted those some time ago because it's like, that was so embarrassing. I should not have.
No, this woman's gonna have a face full of regret. By the way, I'm okay being a gloves off fighter. I'm okay being really mean. She's sub mid, okay? Even before the baby. Like if I just subtract some facial fat from her, it's like this is about what she gets.
I was gonna say they do look equivalent to each other. They scored in that realm.
So so she's not like getting a really rough deal. I'll also
Mhm.
point out, someone else pointed this out. I mean, it's pretty obvious. That's a nice kitchen, dude.
Whoa, that's huge. I didn't even notice that. That's huge.
It's a
And there's a
huge
TV
kitchen.
over there. Oh my gosh.
She's got a TV in there that looks like
Shoot.
some kind of oven.
Maybe air
top
fryer
thing.
or something.
Could be, yeah, air fryer. Those are pretty popular now.
And it wraps
She got
around. Wow.
Yeah. So she's got a really nice kitchen, a decent
Yeah.
cooktop. It looks like she's using an electric griddle on top of the stove. I don't know what that's about.
And yeah, and if he's still busy, like not just from work, but even when he's at home and like texting, say work contacts or anything, and she's got that sort of kitchen, I don't think she should be all that upset, especially so. It's like
Yeah,
he's still busy, she's still busy too.
Well, 5 to 6, he's probably just coming down from his day,
Mhm.
too. It's 5 to 6 p.m.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty dead by that point. I mean,
Right.
after a commute, or if he's working from home. I
Mhm.
mean, since he's in his shorts, I'm going to assume maybe he works from home.
Mhm.
Even after that, I just want to collapse.
Mhm.
You could have had tons of meetings. Who even know? Who knows?
Right.
Also, the problem with TikTok is that your username is like out there now, and this silly
Yeah.
woman probably put a real name on that. That's probably actually a real name, the Mama
Yep.
Brianna. Doesn't even rhyme. So you're mid. You can't
Mhm.
rhyme. What value do you really?
Well, even
have?
if it's pronounced Brianna, that still doesn't even properly slant
Yeah.
rhyme.
No, yeah. You can't do ma and na, ma na.
No.
Unless you
sometimes,
set
but
the
you have to do it
cadence.
super well. And it doesn't
Yeah,
work here.
It doesn't work here. I'm gonna assume that she can't rhyme well. Anyways, her kitchen is nice.
Mhm.
She looks like she's dressed comfortably.
Mhm. There's
Can
a cute
I
dog back
analyze?
there. Nice
Can
golden.
I analyze a yawn? Is that a real yawn or not?
I feel like it doesn't look real, but maybe she did a real yawn and then she faked one for the camera, like to
Oh, I
include
hate
that
this
she
face,
did
by
do
the
a
way.
real yawn.
Oh, by the way, I hate this face. My
That
mom used to
one?
make this face. Yeah, I hate this
Yeah,
face.
yeah,
This is the I'm pretending I'm flustered face.
yeah.
It's
No, I've
like
seen
children
it.
do it.
I've witnessed it.
I hate this so much. Like, I've been super tired. I've stayed up for 48 hours in college. I never made this face. You know what you do is you go over to that sink, that really nice sink over there. You put some water in your hands. You rub it on your face, and then you get back to it. I knew guys who were so tired they put Tabasco sauce in their eyes.
Oh,
That'll wake you up.
but you're talking about men.
Correct. Well, water on the face. Do like what does this face do? Like,
It just
This
sets
is-
everyone off as a warning, like, oh no, she's in one of those moods. I've known plenty of women who do this, and I've probably done it in the past myself, and it's awful, and we need to stop doing it, ladies. It doesn't help
Also-
anyone, it just makes everything worse.
at 5 to 6, right? At 5 to 6. I mean, okay, so the counter argument is maybe she's really tired too because she's being taking care of the kid.
Mhm.
I suppose. I mean, I don't know how old that kid is. He can reach up. But countertop's about 32 inches off the ground, so the kid's able to reach in the early part of the video.
So that'd be
yeah,
almost
head-
3 feet. So
Yeah, 32 inches is standard countertop height, I think.
oh.
Yeah, I installed countertops in my house. I used to be a landlord, so I learned a lot of esoteric stuff about houses.
Makes sense.
Yeah, like stuff like in the
So-
early 90s, they put in aluminum wiring, but the aluminum wiring
Yeah.
tends to fatigue and break.
I know we had to
It's not as
change
flexible.
our wires because it was it was copper or some, I don't know. But that's a tangent. So this
yeah.
child looks like maybe older toddler or early childhood, maybe.
Yeah, 3 foot tall. I mean, I'm no expert,
A
but
little
that's
less,
probably
but
like
yeah.
4-year-old kid, maybe
Yeah.
3 or 4. Like, because if it's a baby, I mean, that's too old to be. When they're that big, they shouldn't need to be held all the time.
No.
So she's got a coddled child. She has a coddled child. That's
Yeah,
very
I was
needy.
gonna say, is she still holding the child at that size that often? I mean, she's got to start weaning the kid off of being held like that.
I mean, they make little footstools for kids about that height to
Mm-hmm.
access the countertops because at that age they should be able to like make a peanut butter jelly sandwich.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
Or,
how
you
the
know,
kid.
like sort of help, quote unquote, with their parents, like their mom while she cooks or whatever. They can do little tasks and learn how to become more efficient on their own as well.
Sure. Yeah. At the very least, the child should be out of mom's hair.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Such an unflattering still we stopped on too.
It is.
All right, so what do you want to tell me about this video here? What struck you first?
The stupid well, okay. I've known too many women who are like this. I even was that way myself in the past, not in this exact circumstance, but that the same mentality and attitude.
When you say like
And
this, what do you mean?
where it was more centered on me and things that I made into bigger deals than they actually were. I'm like, oh, but you didn't do this. You didn't notice that. All this other stuff. And he's like, I was doing my own stuff, so you could be doing your stuff. And I'm sorry I didn't get to help you. You're being ridiculous. And at the time, I'm like, no, you're just being inattentive. You don't really care. You don't really love me. And it's not true for one. And also, it just causes way more problems because then there's a whole fight. There's bad feelings. And
what it tells the man is that he can't relax. He has to always be attending her at all times, checking up on her, making sure she's okay.
She's a glorified child.
Exactly. So she's got very childish traits going on in this video.
You can even see it on her face, I would say.
Yeah, it just pretend this woman is a child, and this all make perfect sense. All this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Why is she getting? All right, nothing has actually happened up until this point. Like, okay, so first off, does she need her husband to help her make pancakes? Like, can you? What I would say to I wouldn't be married to this woman, but if I was a marriage counselor or something like that, and I was trying to like get through to this woman, first off, when you're a marriage counselor, you have to understand about 90% of the people that walk in your door don't actually want to get better.
Yeah,
she might be one of them.
Probably.
So your best gambit is actually not to satiate them or be gentle. Sometimes it's best to just slam them with it.
Shock them out of it.
Exactly. Like you go into a dentist, they're going to show you the big book of British teeth, like in The Simpsons. Show them the big book of divorced women to show her what she's in for.
And real quick, I want to throw in that I feel like a lot of people who go to therapists or counseling are probably of the same manner. They don't actually want to get better. They just feel like they should go and be made to feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
Part of why therapy fails.
Well, that's just because they're women.
Mostly, yes, and the effeminate men.
Yeah, the effeminate men. They can't take the truth either. So this is a woman right here. My ex ended up financially better off than me. Divorce isn't fair. Yeah, I've seen guys, good men, when they get divorced, they start making more money.
They also make better decisions when they remarry and have a family again.
If they do, yeah.
Well, yes.
Yeah, sometimes. Some guys are. I think most guys just don't get remarried, and they have like a girlfriend, wife.
I guess I've seen that before.
Yeah. So, anyways, this is a child. This is a grown child. I would tell her, listen, you cannot seem to handle making like she hasn't had anything special happen to her. She's making pancakes.
And
I do this when I'm
pancakes.
drunk. Listen. I'm sorry. What? Yeah, it's just pancakes.
Yeah, nothing else.
And they look overly fluffed, like she. Not to be like a pancake snob, but one of the things you have to do is you can't let them rise for too long, like the baking powder that's in there. If you let them sit for too long, they'll become overly fluffy, and you might want to thin that out with something.
Maybe she was too busy counting her breaths. Look at that, 27 exactly, apparently.
Calming breaths. Why isn't she calm yet?
I guess she didn't take enough. She only did 27. Maybe she should have done 72. I don't know.
You know how to do a calming breath? There's actually a science to calming breaths.
Yeah, I had to learn it when I was going in and out of the psych stuff. So over the years, I've had to practice it a lot. It does.
It's an important skill. I think everyone should know. Feel free to.
It is. So I guess we technically could have different ideas. So if this is wrong, you can give out yours. But I was taught that you're supposed to also try to breathe with your diaphragm, which is actually, how do you explain? I guess lower. Normally, for example, when I learned how to play flute, I was told you extend your stomach more. It goes deeper down when you breathe. And so you inhale, but you count like seconds. Usually I think we did 8, and then you hold it, and then you breathe out slowly, and you count for that time as well.
Yeah, it's a box breathing, I think, is that technique. Where the inhalation and the exhalation are the same length. And the diaphragm, I don't know if that is central to it. I think if you're a flute player, that's where that comes in, because you need to have the air capacity. But you definitely want to take a deep breath.
I do know that they didn't necessarily insist upon it, but they did bring it up when I was in the intensive outpatient stuff. And because I was already acquainted with that sort of breathing anyway, it does help more to do it that way. But it's not like they were like making sure everyone was doing it like that. Most people were just breathing normally.
Okay.
They did hit on it, though.
Well, something I learned. Now, there's another technique my wife told me about, is that you breathe out for longer than you breathe in. So if you're going in for 4 seconds, go out for 6. And what that does, it tells your body that there's no threats around, because that's the kind of breathing that you do when there's nothing around. Like, you're not breathing for air.
Mm-hmm.
It forces you to have the relaxed cadence. Like, you go in like 1, 2, go.
Okay, that makes sense too. Like, you wouldn't have enough air to be in a stress state at that point either, I suppose.
Yeah, you're breathing to breathe, not to bring oxygen in as if you need more.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that it's a bit of largesse, right? It's like when you're trying to convince yourself that you're finally made it, you finally have money. Because I used to be poor. I used to be like bologna sandwich on Wonder Bread poor. A lot of people have. I had to convince myself I was rich. I am rich. I feel quite rich. I'm not like running around the Lambo, but I don't worry about money. That's how I define rich, is when you no longer worry about money.
Right.
You could have a ton of money and also still be poor. Like, if you, yeah, athletes do that all the time because they spend way more than they have.
Right.
And just because they make a humongous paycheck that you think you wouldn't overspend doesn't mean you wouldn't. I mean, everyone's paycheck is sufficient. Because
yes, that's something I want to touch on later.
Oh, sure. Anyways, the largesse kind of helps you make the transition to being in a new state of mind. So when I wanted to convince myself I was finally rich, I don't have to worry about money, because it was just a source of anxiety I didn't need. I went out and like spent a bunch of money on suits. I bought a bunch of really nice suits, like Ron Burgundy, full on. I think I spent like $3,000. I bought 3 suits, fully tailored, 3-piece suits, pants, trousers, everything, shoes, all that stuff, bespoke. And since you want to get a little bit more leverage out of it, I also bought an extra set of complementary colors of the shirts and pocket squares.
Right.
Now, I was a salesman at the time, so this was like nice. So I had like a couple of swap in, swap outs. I'm a bit in touch with that side of myself. I don't even know if I'd call it the feminine side. I call it the aesthetic side. Like, there's an area where male and female energy sort of meet.
Oh, there definitely
Venn
is.
diagram. And that's the aesthetic side. And that's actually where men and women seem to meet. I haven't put any thought into this. So, yeah, what do you think?
I haven't either, but it's funny because for me growing up, my parents were kind of inverse in a lot of the stereotypical sort of gender roles or traits, except not exactly so. But so one of the things, my dad was always the more fashionable one, and to this day still is, which is fine. But in some ways, his siblings, or even my mom, to sometimes would like kind of tease him, like, "Oh, it's so girly of you to blah blah blah." Not like that, but that sort of thinking or framing. And I don't think it actually is, because I've even had exes who were also that way. They're like, "No, we have to do it like this." And I've been told I've got no style, and in the past I didn't. I was terrible about putting things together for myself to wear. But it's really interesting to see, because it is something. And I haven't really thought about it either, but maybe we'll have to come back to it one day to discuss.
Yeah, I think we should talk about masculine and feminine aesthetics. And I'll close on this because we want to get back to the video here. That I will wear super nice suits. I don't know what the hell a metrosexual is. I don't talk about, like, that's a dumb made up phrase. I wear nice suits. I like aesthetics. I like good art. I also will go out and split wood for an hour with an axe, shirtless in the snow. Both of those are like. If you ever look at like the biggest killers in the world tend to also be the absolute biggest ballers, like total
that
peacocks.
Absolutely makes sense, though. So, it does.
I mean, look at Japanese. Like, they go for the colors, man. They love it. They don't have nothing to be ashamed of. The samurai, they're straight up. Every one of those guys has cut a person in half, probably just as an initiation ritual, like coming of age.
Dang, I don't even know that much about them, so
it was legal for samurai to just kill people who are rude. It's no wonder the Japanese are very polite now.
Yeah,
they systematically killed all the rude people for like several centuries.
Anyway, I'm not going to say we need that, but it is tempting.
I call it cultivation. It's a whole subject I'm kind of diving into, of why different ethnic groups behave differently.
Oh, yes, it's I've kind of been working that too. But again, we'll have to save that for another time.
Yes, exactly. Let's get back to this absolute train wreck of a woman. Sorry, Mama Brianna.
She does represent most modern women, though, I would say, or modern mothers.
How revolting. How revolting. I would put her in timeout. How would you deal with this woman?
As a woman?
I mean, these are all look how childish these stupid. I ruined dinner. I'm going to ruin.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I found that a lot.
Cook with one hand.
I found that a lot of women, especially some men, but again, usually more the effeminate ones, but they're kind of like stuck as if they never matured past either late childhood or their teen years. Like they still have the teen angst going on,
Correct.
even when they're adults
Absolutely.
or older adults, or some of them are even elderly and still act like they're teenagers. And it's
Yeah, I
like
should
you
probably
just never grew up.
I will psychoanalyze and I will be really mean. I am not a gentleman like on the Lotus Eaters.
Go
I
for
will
it.
just say what I think. She probably married a guy that was kind of a pushover who gave her
Oh,
a lot of
yeah.
comfort, and she
They
sought
do that.
comfort her whole life.
Mhm.
And you can see how that in her parenting, that she's constantly trying to comfort this child.
Mhm.
Like, why is the child upset? It just can't be by yourself. Oh, that's
Right.
interesting. Where'd you learn that behavior from? Who
And that's
didn't teach you any better?
Right.
You
Well,
know?
that's the thing too. Like with toddlers, you don't really negotiate with them. At least
Yes,
not the way
exactly.
people normally use the word negotiate.
By the way, if you're counting your calming breaths, you're not calming.
No.
Absolute C word.
But again,
Monologue.
most women, most modern women and mothers are totally of this mindset mentality. And I'll concede that perhaps psychologically speaking, they maybe went through things or culturally or societally or within their own homes, etc., that makes it nearly impossible for them to get themselves out of this situation. We just have a whole crop of awful women. Sure,
Well,
but
and
it
the
doesn't
thing is,
make it okay.
the thing is, these women expect someone else to fix them, and
That too.
the responsibility for the injury is on the perpetrator, yes, but the responsibility for the healing is on the victim.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know how many times I've heard mainly other women try to use former issues with boyfriends or exes or whatever as like, oh, he abused me and that's why I'm like this. Like, whoa, 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 whoa. It's awful he abused you and that you suffered from it and that you even perhaps still have symptoms from it after the fact. Even I do, and I mostly, I've worked on my stuff, but you can't use that as an excuse to be a bad person yourself, and you can't excuse it for bad behaviors. Even if you do slip up sometimes, okay, sure, but overall, you have to be working on yourself to get better because what's done can't be undone, and it's totally on you to choose how you're going to run with it after the fact.
Correct. It's not about justice, right? Like justice would be whoever perpetrated it would fix it. But that's just reality does not mesh well with justice.
No, it doesn't. It's sad, but it's true, and people don't want to accept it.
Correct. The this woman is emotionally easily frazzled, I would say. She's very easily frazzled. I will play the audio of a different one.
Okay.
I just don't like the TikTok music.
That's
people
fair.
always put on here. Like, what is she even doing twiddling her? She has time to like film him, but not time to like make this.
I thought about that too. Yeah, it's like it was
quote unquote dinner.
Also, they just have like a rodent cage in the middle of their living room. That's a little cage too.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, I think we sell those at Petco
it's like
and
a
PetSmart.
hamster. It might be.
That better not be a hamster in there. It's probably a guinea pig or a rabbit. I mean, they shouldn't be in that size of cage, but I wouldn't be surprised.
It's a nice house. A lot of women would kill to have a man like this. A lot of women would kill to have a man like this.
Well, they'd say they would until they get into the nitpicks of, oh, he didn't pay enough attention to me. He didn't give me this extra thing that I wanted, etc.
Yeah, and I would say to those women, you didn't ask. It's like, we're not. No, I'll say, everything is on the husband. One of my pillars of wisdom is that if you are married, husbands, it's all on you. Do not count on the woman to do anything, including take care of herself. What you have to do is you have to train your wife to take care of herself. You have to train your wife you have to train her. So for like a year or so, you're going to have to just pay attention to her all the time. And that's why it's usually there's a gap between the marriage and the child. All right. You have to train your wife to be a good mom to an extent. You have to finish it off. Now you have to, like all good teachers, you have to pick from good stock. You can't take a bad student and make them a good student. You can take a good student and make them a great student. That's what you can do. You can't marry a bad woman and make her a good woman. You have to marry a good woman and make her a great woman.
And just to be clear, this is generalizations. Obviously, exceptions exist, but they just aren't common enough to be considered.
I wouldn't want to be an exception on this case. Like the concept of like, was it not ultimate responsibility? Extreme ownership applies to your marriage as well. And if there's something going wrong, like if she's being unreasonable, you have to ask yourself, what can I do about it?
Right. I definitely agree with that. I just think there's so many people who didn't have this sort of insight beforehand. They got into relationships and personally, okay, coming from my background, Roman Catholic, etc., I feel like it would just be better for people to change their mindsets and work on making things as best as possible, even if the other party isn't exactly, in on it or doing their best. But there are things you can do to make it better overall instead of just splitting up and making it more miserable for everyone.
I think we're arguing the same point. I think you're
we?
agreeing with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that works even better.
Did you listen to what I said? You did a woman thing. You didn't listen to what I said. You wanted to just add in by disagreeing. I don't know. I said extreme ownership. Husbands, it's all on you to fix it. Do not count on her to fix it. Like, do not count on her to correct her bad behaviors. You have to go in and train her gently and like a horse. Like, you just sort of like a lot of like cooing and shh, it's okay. What I would do is if my wife was doing this, I would walk in the kitchen and like, hey, honey, is everything okay? And she's like, everything's fine. Everything's fine. That's what women do.
It's an ultimate lie.
I would say, listen, honey, I can tell you're stressed out and I cannot bear to see it. Let me take over. Just go ahead and have a seat on the couch. It's all good. Shh, 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 shh. It's all right. And I'd put her ass in timeout. Is what I just did. It's like, go. And I will, if I'm angry, I'm going to keep that under wraps because that anger is temporary and it's not productive.
Yeah,
so,
it's not worth
acting out. You got to grab her by the hips. You got to like take her by the hips and just move her out of the dance floor sometimes.
Right.
Put her in timeout is not a punishment. Timeout is supposed to be, you're supposed to cool down and get some perspective.
Yeah.
Give her like a mindless task to do. It's like, hey, honey, there's this thing that was bothering me. I don't know about the texture of the ceiling. I was thinking maybe just switching the texture. What do you think? Can you just like sit and imagine different textures of the ceiling and send her on her way? Because now she's thinking about textures in the ceiling, which is a meditative activity.
Right. Well, I think too, timeout isn't supposed to be incarceration. It's supposed to be rehabilitation, essentially, if you want to think of it in that sort of scale.
Yeah,
where you're not doing it to be punished. You're doing it to cool off, get yourself better, and then get back into the game better.
When people act like children, it's important to treat them like children. It gets your mindset in the right place. This is a child face. This is literally all these screen grabs are child faces. Let me see if I can grab it.
And I do want to throw in as well, I've been working on this sort of hypothesis where I think in a way women do naturally tend to be more childlike than men. You consider I suppose you could say hierarchy where there's God, then men, then women, then children. And men place their role, well, it's between God and women, so they're between those two as a bridge, and then women are between men and children. So there will be something more childlike in nature to women. However, it can't be childish. It should be childlike, so they're better with raising their kids while still being adults. Whereas these days, a lot of women are more childish, and it's a problem.
Yeah, even grown women, boss babes who are in the office.
Too many.
They're very childish.
They're some of the worst.
They're just high school girls, basically, is what they are.
Ooh, yeah.
And they become, and you could use all the same tricks. Dudes are pretty much like struck in the mold at 12. Like if you removed men's sex drive, there would be no difference between a 12-year-old and a 70-year-old.
There's something beautiful to that and admirable and envious even, or enviable.
Yeah, so women don't really grow up until they've had a kid. And if you do not, when you grow up, you harden up, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to solidify to whatever you are at the moment. So before you let your wife have a kid, you better get, while she's still soft and malleable, train her to be appropriate. Her husband did not train her. Both of these people just assumed they would be perfect.
Right.
And let that sit. Both these people just assumed the other one was going to be perfect. That's a terrible assumption to make, but it's an assumption unconsciously that most married couples make.
Let me pose a question at you.
Sure.
So I feel like to a degree I've witnessed, but also more traditionally heard about in the before times, like before I was even born or like when I was little or what have you, where there would be the concept that having a child would get to a young couple, say, whether, so young that they're teenagers or just young otherwise, young at heart even, having their first child would get them both to grow up and mature typically. However, that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Overall, even from what I can think of and people I've known, obviously sometimes it does strike true or more or less strikes true. But what is your take on that?
Well, I'd ask the question of why do you think that is, that a child would force people to grow up?
Well, because it's a responsibility and the child needs the parents to care for them. And normally speaking, parents, they do want to take care of their child and they're not afraid to do what they need to. Because of that, I don't know if there's been like the cultural shift in mentality where everyone's so set on themselves that it isn't happening anymore that way or what. But
so do you think people are taking responsibility for their children these days?
No,
Like
not really.
There we go. So that's why it's not happening anymore. People aren't growing up is because they don't take the responsibility of being a parent seriously. So that moment doesn't happen. A lot of guys grow up when they get their first car.
Yeah, I could see that.
Or their first dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people grow up. It just depends on what you consider an important responsibility. I hate the word tradition because I realized it was worthless. I was talking to like 5 other guys about tradition, and I think nobody actually knew what it meant. So I had to like sit there and define. I think I spent 10 minutes working with them to define what tradition is. It's just culture that you pass down. That's it, between generations.
Right.
So when people say like traditional housewife and they think 1950s housewife, that's not a tradition because it was never passed down. It showed up in like the late 40s and then it disappeared in the early 60s. That's one generation. It never got passed down. So that's not. So what is traditional, right? I don't use the word because it means something so different to every person. The way it used to be was that a child was a big responsibility and it would shock people out of this stuff.
Well, it was a blessing as well. These days it's seen almost as a curse to a lot of people, sadly.
Yeah, and they bemoan the light. Yeah, they're not looking behind them. They're looking behind themselves. They're not looking forward. They're trying to relive their childhood. And I think people used to grow up very early. Like at 8 years old, it's considered acceptable to get baptized for a lot of churches. At 13 years old, in the Hebrew tradition, you are a man. You're a grown man at that point.
That's about when I had my confirmation, as well as about 13, 14 years old with my peers who grew up in the Catholic Church.
Yeah, the thing is, nobody has any responsibility for anything anymore, so no one grows up. That's pretty much it. I took my first job really seriously. I was a floor guard at a skating rink, and I took it really seriously. I was kind of like way too serious about it. I kept putting people. I was like Judge Dredd on roller skates. Is how I was when I was a floor guard. It was pretty great. So they always put me in charge of the kids skate sessions because I would keep things in order. But if you were trying to have fun, you don't want me there. Anyway, I didn't realize the job of floor guard is mostly to make women make like girls happy so they show up. And when the girls show up, more men show up, which means more ticket sales. That's what it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be cute.
Shoot, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, if you ever want a business to be successful, attract women to it. Men will just show up. Yeah,
we bring our friends, they flock.
So this woman has not grown up. She's not taking her responsibility seriously. She's still, the whole consider running away is absolute textbook not taking responsibility. Posting this on to TikTok. I won't even get into the psychology behind that. Ugh. What's your prognosis? How would you if these people, I mean, you've seen this. What is your advice? How do you fix this?
Advice? Well, I think the husband should toughen up and take her more or less offline. Because let's be honest, being online isn't healthy for the most part anyway. I'm online because most of my friends aren't local and a few other reasons, but the ideal life is not on the internet. Even I can recognize that. And then put more emphasis. Well, it really would just be training her to do better. And it definitely can be done, especially if he's suave enough about it or clever enough, you could say.
It takes a lot of knowledge to
but her focus needs to be shifted from clout and attention and just being seen by everyone, whatever, to focusing on their family and their household and what actually matters in their lives. Because clearly that's not what she's focused on.
It's also a possibility she staged this whole thing. She could have right before the camera turned on. She might have said, "Hey, just go ahead and relax and take it easy." And then she's over here like sets the camera up.
Well, or the clip of him looking at his phone could have been from a totally different time as well. I suppose we technically can't say for certain.
Yeah, pretty much at any moment. I mean, it is plausible that it's 5 to 6. Like it's not reasonable to expect him to be like up on his feet if he just got done.
Right.
I'd say this woman is like, you can't handle making pancakes. You can't handle what appears to be a 3 or 4 year old.
Right.
How dare you call yourself a mama? How dare you?
Yeah, and that's not even a full dinner. That's not even like a couple sides with it. That's literally just pancakes.
As I said before, like I cook this when I'm drunk, like straight up, and I cook it way better than this.
Right.
Look at it. Like he's got a little. It's like a little kid's play set too. He's got the little skillet, little spatula.
Right.
Oh, look, it's like you're a child. You're a grown
Yeah.
child. Oh, sweet. I have those exact same silicone bumper things too. Those are really useful.
Ah.
She has a nice house. She has everything to be thankful for, and yet she's not thankful.
No, and it's the ingratitude of people these days is so severe, and I hate it.
He's actually not in bad shape either. Like he looks a bit skinny
Well,
here.
one of the things I was going to mention is maybe he dropped by the gym before he came home too, so he doesn't
That could be
get too
true.
out of shape. Especially if she's
Yeah,
just making
yeah.
pancakes every night.
He does have his Gatorade bottle here.
Yeah.
Yeah, could be. I just got done with a run.
And
Yeah, I don't like this lady.
No. But she's
There's a lot
such a common feature of the modern situation or current situation, and it's just disgusting, and we need to change it. The culture has to shift.
Yeah, and it's gonna have to start with men.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because women aren't gonna do it. Like women have been in charge of the culture for like a half a century now.
We got ourselves into this mess because men allowed it because they thought we wanted it and it would be better for us. But now we can't get ourselves out of it. And let's be honest, we're not going to get ourselves out of it. Men have to man up and get us all out of it.
Well, the thing is, manning up also might just be abandoning all the women.
At least for a generation or several, yeah.
Yeah, men can die alone. We don't mind that as much.
Well, you see that happening with what, MGTOW?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the thing is, the men will. Men do have a bit more time, right? Like we could probably get married in our mid-30s fairly easily.
Well,
especially if we. Go ahead.
I was just thinking, like, even elderly men, they technically still can produce kids. Sure, those kids are more likely to have certain, I don't want to say defects, but issues born with them, congenital issues. I mean, technically, yes. But like the kids are still viable. They can still have usually, good lives worth living.
Well, he might not even want a kid. The fact is, he can get married at most times. And I would recommend guys not get married too late. I don't see that turning out very well. A lot of guys think they could just marry like at 50, they can marry a 25-year-old. And it's like, no, that's not gonna work out, buddy.
Not usually.
No, she's gonna take you for all your worth. That's what she's there for, no matter what she says. So because the power imbalance means that there's no trust. You can't have trust in a massive power imbalance. So that's why, like young couples, that's the best time to do it because you're both kind of useless.
We need to bring back high school sweethearts, or even earlier than that.
Yeah, I don't actually. I think we're gonna call this a lost civilization, and I think all the good men they're gonna pair up with whatever women are around that they find acceptable. But you already see this now. Like the United States is balkanizing into red and blue.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So either get with your people or not, right?
Exactly.
You can get with your people, do it.
Well, and there could be something very positive to come down from it ultimately. I mean, the blues, they're not really reproducing, and so far in trying to steal the Reds' children, the Reds are waking up and fighting back to it. So clearly, eventually, we'll have better temperaments bred and raised into our people.
And Tennessee is very much a post-liberal state. I don't think we ever were liberals. Like when I say liberals, I mean like classically liberal. I consider them to be also bad. Tennessee does not mind wielding the power of the state to enforce morality. I love playing the definition game, and the definition game is this. So the definition game is you ask yourself, what is the real meaning of this word? Because there's what's in the textbook, and there's what it actually means.
Right.
And I ask myself, what is the real meaning of the word law? The word law is a written agreement to enforce cultural norms with force. That's what it is. We want to make it a cultural norm not to steal. That's a cultural norm. Some cultures, stealing is okay. Like in a lot of blue cities right now. If you're the right skin color, you can steal stuff. Or you can steal up to a certain amount. Other cultures, it's like, we'll cut off your hand if you steal. Right? So the disposition towards theft is not an objectively, across all cultures, bad thing. We can see that. It's observable. It's not deniable.
Right. It's objective.
Yeah. It is objectively not objective. So what does a law do? It enforces cultural norms. And in Tennessee, the cultural norm is that you're going to be married, you're going to stay married. It's actually really hard to get divorced here. You have to have two-party consent, unless it's a at-fault reason.
Right.
And those at-fault reasons, I don't even know if I think you have to like have a repeated abuse or something like that. Like you can't have one incident. They'll usually send you. Judges will sentence you to marriage counseling too. By the way, here.
I feel like that does make more sense though, because you never know if she just like set something up or twisted it so this one time it looked different, or maybe it really was just a one-off random slip up that'll never happen again.
Right.
So I can see the logic behind that.
Yeah, and it's not even. It's non-rational, right? Our cultural norms are irrational, and you have to just lean into that, because if you try to rationalize them, then you can argue them away. Oh, marriage is just a contract, and that sort of thing, right? I mean, it is a contract, but it's also a lot more.
It's more than that. I hate when people say that, and obviously that's festered and caused so many problems now. Now you have younger people who are like, why should I even get married then if it's just a piece of paper? And it's like, but it's supposed to be so much more than that.
Correct. And the great thing is that because Tennessee is so hard-lined about... Oh, so by the way, infertility is also an at fault. If you don't disclose it at the time of marriage.
I guess I could get that to a degree.
What is your disagreement with it?
My disagreement is that technically, with infertility, assuming everything is still intact, like technically miracles can happen. However, I definitely understand where if you don't be like, yeah, I do have this issue and odds are it's going to cause trouble, like almost certainly, upset unless there is a miracle. Yeah, I can I see both sides of it, I think.
I think there's one side to it, but the right side. You have to disclose if you're infertile at marriage for the other partner to know. It's important for them to know.
I mean,
don't hide it. That's what the law is. The law is that if you hide that from someone, that's a big no-no. That's at fault, and you're divorced.
Yeah, and I guess with the law specifically saying don't hide it and not just, oh, if you're infertile, they can divorce you. I think that is more fair that way.
Yeah, the wording is careful on that one. It says infertility at the time of marriage.
It's about being upfront about it and making the decision.
So if you become infertile during the marriage, or you find out you're infertile during the marriage, then that's not at fault.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I think that's a fair way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, miracles are not a thing you should ever expect.
No,
that's putting your God to the test.
Technically possible.
God wills it, but God's not going to give a miracle to a liar. That's for sure.
You never know.
Oh no, he doesn't. He doesn't. The spirit's gone if you sin like that.
I don't think we should get into theology too deeply.
Have you read it? If you read some of Isaiah and Jeremiah, you'll see that the character of God is not a forgiving guy. God is not forgiving. No, he's very rare. He's very rare. He doesn't forgive the unrepentant.
Well, yeah, sure.
And if you abuse the system, he really hates that.
Well, yeah, but there's still always the point too that ultimately, if you do come around and end up repenting, you still get forgiveness and welcome back.
Oh, you get forgiveness if you're repentant. Yeah, but you also get your punishment.
Well, yeah, definitely. You still have to pay for what you did.
So your marriage will be over, but you'll be forgiven by God. What I'm saying is that you're not entitled to keep your husband if you lie to him.
No, we can agree on that.
and the thing is, don't ever expect miracles. As far as you're concerned, miracles don't exist. Also, I don't think there are that many of them. Like, miracles are super rare. I don't know. I guess a Catholic would
argue that, but that's a different thing for a different day, probably. Yeah.
If you ever expect miracles, you're taking God for granted. He doesn't like that. He really hates that. God hates transactional relationships, for sure.
Well, he still engages in them from time to time.
Yeah, but he hates it when... Well, the thing is that...
We're not here to discuss theology.
I will a little bit.
Okay. Bit. It's your stream if you're fine with it.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm fine with that. God was... In the Old Testament, it seemed like God was very frustrated to be in charge of all these Hebrews.
Yeah.
Just seemed... Because they kept making it transactional.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'd give them covenants. You're like, okay, here are the rules. And then they would just like... but I can get around these rules if I just twist it a little bit like this. It's like, okay, your heart's not in it. I can tell.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, and that is part of Catholic teaching. I mean, your heart is supposed to be in it, but there's also something to be said about following the practice, even without your heart fully being in it, just to get in the practice, and so eventually you will get into it fully as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to risk praying if my heart wasn't in it. You got to get your heart in the right place. I would consider it a misstep to send
I
in.
mean, I'm not saying
half-hearted
it's the best way
prayer.
of doing it, but
No, well, I'd be insulting. That's like calling up your dad and be like, "Hey, Dad, I was told to call you. How you doing?" It's like, I don't like. Call me back when you give a damn. Call me back when you care. Like this lip service is actually, if it's interesting that you bring that up. God has a tremendous amount of vengeance and hatred for the people of Judea in Jeremiah.
Yeah,
you should really read that book. It's a good one. I'm reading it right now. He basically says, "I hate you all. I don't even listen to your prayers anymore because you guys keep sinning, and then you keep asking for forgiveness, and your heart's not in it. And I'm tired of being used like this."
Well, but I would argue that's sort of a different thing, though, because there's one thing to sin, ask forgiveness, and then not even bother to try to do better. But someone who's like making the attempts to at least get in the process, I mean, there's still the intent that maybe one day it'll click and I'll actually feel, this whole spirituality, whatever, via religion. But yeah, you can't just go on and say, okay, I'm going to do this just because, technically it should make me clean, whatever, because technically that's what it says. And then you don't actually care about that. And then you do the same stuff again.
Yeah, I could see getting into the rhythm of it, but just know that that's not a way to be. And
no, it's definitely not the ideal way of it.
And if and it's not ideal, it's also not acceptable. I would not want to do that. Very, very short, brief transition time. Get yourself in the spirit of it. Find something.
Right.
So I see too many Christians who know they're doing something wrong and they just keep doing it.
I used to fall into that myself, and you really do have to break the habit of saying, no, I know better than this. I need to stop this, because it is a bad thing that way. And too many are in the mentality of that, like, oh, I'll just do it better next time, but then they don't really do better, even if they sort of want to.
If you're really trying, I think
it will get
okay.
better. Yeah.
But if you're not.
Right.
Anyway, let's see. Oh yeah. So you have in your private chat here, you said you have a video you want to shill, kind of related to people not growing up.
Yeah, so not too long ago, I actually ended up putting a video, and granted, I'm not good at putting videos together. I just have thoughts and ideas and wanted to get it out there. So putting, that aside, the quality may not be best, but regardless, I don't know if you happen to see or remember when Just Pearly Things on Twitter caused a whole uproar regarding her statement that men typically find, or would normally find, a 16-year-old more attractive than a 26-year-old woman. And I reflected on that, and I was like, you know what? She's technically right. It's uncomfortable to say at this point, but then I thought further onto it, and that's what I get into in this video, in which I was like, maybe we should start having teenagers, at least the middle to older teenagers, start actually embracing adulthood and being more adult-like at that point, instead of keeping them as children into their 20s, into their 30s.
Yeah,
at some point.
exactly.
And I think that's a major thing we need to actually touch upon again.
I mean, up into people's 30s, they don't have responsibility. That's the reason why I'm not really a big fan of the MGTOW guys or the red pill guys at all. Is because they're just trying to
take it.
They don't take what?
Responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. A wife is a big responsibility, and it's like, can you handle it or not? You're also responsible for finding a wife. Like, you're responsible for meeting people. Like ultimate, like extreme ownership. Everything that you, unless when I hear like you're a MGTOW guy or like it's like, okay, do you have any sort of desire to have any kind of love or bond with a woman at all? Or at least like sexual relation or anything like that. Anything like that. If you do, well, then you got a problem.
Right.
Because either you're going to be floating, you're going to have this bodily need of sex, and it's going to be floating off with no emotional bond, which is which is unhealthy. Even for men.
Right.
Because you're completely untethered. Oh yeah, sorry, I spelled your name wrong.
It's okay, it happens.
Or you're gonna be absolutely forever alone and upset about it. Like one of my neighbors across the street, he's like 70 years old, and he's just like I just sort of see him standing in the lawn looking at nothing. I'm like, this guy's not happy.
That's sad.
I talked with him. He's got a lot of problems. He deserves it. Sorry,
I know that is a harsh way of saying it, but a lot of times it does end up being true. It's like, everything you did in your current mentality, yeah, you could have changed it and done better, but you didn't. So really, this is your fault, even though it is sad.
He deserves to pass away alone. I've spent a couple days with him just hanging out, going fishing. It's like, yeah, you're still holding on to anger.
Mm-hmm.
You're still, fiddling around with stuff. You don't go to church. You don't even really know anybody.
So not even
You know?
trying.
No, he's a disconnected, atomized man.
Gotcha.
He's not
He's
trying to.
stuck
He's not
in
trying.
the misery. He just wants to wallow.
So he wanted to he's kind of love bombing me. He's like, hey, let's go fishing. I'll help you build this. I'll help you do that. And I'm like, this is suspicious. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I just cut off contact. I was like, I don't need to talk to you about it. Like, I've
that
got my
makes
people.
sense. I know recently I've kind of more or less given up on the idea of, and you're probably gonna be like, oh no, you still have time, blah 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 blah, of ending up married and having a family and all that. Which I'm not opposed to it. Definitely, if it happens, I'll be thrilled and grateful.
No, that's the correct
However,
mindset, actually. Oh, good, please.
good.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, however, in the just kind of letting it go, I've almost pulled up like backup plan where there are things I've always been passionate about that I've started getting back into again, especially in terms of studying. And I might eventually, make my way back towards the university or something with this sort of plan B, where it's still stuff I'm passionate about. I'd still have a life definitely worth living, but even more than that, a life I'd still otherwise, I could say, be happy with and be content with. I'd still be, I'd find it fulfilling, etc. And it's also taken away some of the stress I experience even in the daily life as well. When I was always like, oh, I need to do this. I need to find a guy, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. No, I'm glad you hit that point. That's actually
a lot of people don't make that sort of adjustment. Instead, they just get angry and keep it that way.
Yeah, there's two types of ways of giving up. There's a good way and a right way of giving up, and you pick the right way. I hope.
Thank you.
Don't get into student loan debt, by the way. If you're passionate about something, I think it's funny that people are like, oh, I'm passionate. I'm going to go to university. I was like,
yeah, no.
I
actually have a plan to work my way in, and I already skipped student loan debt that all my friends got into.
Nice.
And yes, I'm very relieved and felt quite clever about it. Like, I knew it. But at the same time, I still feel for them and taking on all their debt for degrees they're not really using these days. But that's beside the point.
Yeah, I have a lot of sympathy for those people too. It really sucks.
It does.
And a note back on language, actually. I purposefully use the harshest language possible. Not possible, but harshest language that cuts right to the core of it. I think we have too much sugar with our medicine.
We do.
People just need to get used to a little bit of bitterness of like, that's the way it is. No, you should give up on, like, giving up is the first thing you do before you can move forward with your life. Like, you finally let it go. Men find it really unattractive when the woman is like, oh, I got to wife up. I need to wife up. I need to wife up.
I know.
Oh my gosh. Like,
well, it's like how they say that it doesn't happen until you actually let go of it and aren't trying to make it happen, which is terrible to hear when you're still in the phase of, but I want it to happen more than anything else. But I've heard it's true that it tends to happen only after you let go of it that way. I don't know if it'll actually happen, but I'm not counting on it. But at the same time, if it does happen, I'll be blessed. So.
Well, my first question to people that want to get married is I've also come to this other conclusion, and I'm okay with the stream being a stream of consciousness. I like that.
Okay.
I think some people are just meant to be married and some people aren't.
I agree with that, actually. We all have our vocations. Not everyone is called to family life.
And even more than that, I'd say that the modern era has made that very lopsided. So it used to be 95% of people are meant to be married, can handle it. They've been culturally templated.
Right.
And conditioned to be decent husbands and wives. However, that is inverted now. And I'd say so when people say like, oh, nobody's getting married anymore, I'm like, good. F those people. Like, I don't care. F's in the chat for those people. Like, if you didn't have it in you to get married, like the thing is, people just don't care about other people anymore.
Yeah, it's sad but true.
I would say that in that video we were watching, both of those people don't seem to really care about each other a little bit.
I can definitely understand that take, although I would, have to potentially say that for the husband, it could just be that it was really bad framing and that he was just too preoccupied to show that he actually does care more. Because I feel like usually that is the case with husbands, at least these days.
No, he definitely didn't get his say, but the reason I'm saying he doesn't care is because he has let her post this crap on the internet and he hasn't stopped it yet. I would have shut off her phone plan. I would have shut off her phone plan.
See, but most men are too soft to do that sort of thing these days, especially the husbands.
Yeah, that's their fault.
It is their fault, but it's just kind of the situation. And I don't
Okay,
know
when
if that's
someone
not
gets really,
caring or they haven't
let's-
been educated enough or something. I don't know.
let me give you this one here.
Okay.
Let's say you've got really fat.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you got really, really fat.
Mm-hmm.
And I say to you, you don't care about your weight.
Mm-hmm.
You'd probably be like, it's not that I don't care. It's just I didn't know, and I didn't, that sort of thing, right? It's like,
Right.
and I didn't. No one told me. It's like, no, you saw what's going on. You see a problem, and you just didn't do anything about it. Or it's like you just don't own a mirror and you never look. Which is
So
probably
this
what
is
he has.
actually a prime example because that did happen to me, sort of. My
me too, yeah.
medications when I was first put on a literal 100 pounds that I haven't been able to get off of me the past like 7-8 years or something. And I'm only just now starting to make progress. And just to stoke myself up a little bit, I finally got below 211, which I haven't done in many years. So I'm down to 210 as of this morning. But
hey, congratulations.
Thank you. I'm thrilled about it. But the point is, though, for many years, I would kind of make those sorts of arguments and not fully follow through in trying. And it wasn't until I actually pushed myself to at least eat a little bit less, eat a bit slower so it feels like it's more filling, try to swap out some healthy things, which is the worst part because living in a household where not everyone else is following that same sort of diet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But, and also just going out, like to the gym regularly. I started going to work out like 2 or 3 times a week. And there'd be, at first, every few months I'd kind of fall out of it, and then I'd get back, I'd gain the weight back that I would have lost. But finally I've managed to make a habit enough that slowly but surely losing more or less 3 pounds a month at this point, and it has made the difference. So there is something to be said about that and personal accountability, and those who do make excuses but then they don't really pay attention to how poorly they're actually doing it.
They don't really care enough to put their ego aside and embrace the reality that they have a problem.
Right, because if you do truly care, you will do whatever you can to fix it. And I got to that point myself. It's like, I have to change this. And that's when I actually kicked into full gear and started making changes, and it's paying off.
Absolutely. And you're going to get new definitions of caring. Like, you're like, wow, and I thought I used to care, but now I really care. Now I have a whole new knowledge of what caring is.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's like when you say you care about people and that's why you let them do what makes them happy. But then later on, you realize what makes them happy often actually makes them worse and is bad for them. But then caring turns into not letting them do it, but telling them they shouldn't because it's a sign that they have a much larger problem underlying.
The reality is most people have no idea how negligent they are of their marriage, of their health, of their everything, of their mental state.
Well, even of being a person in their communities and civilizations. I have so many friends who, and I just know of people in general, who act as though how they live their personal life just doesn't affect anything else really. And it's like, but we're all part of this together. Unless you're living as a hermit in the woods all by yourself with, nature, otherwise, you're part of it, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, when you don't say hi to somebody and you don't sort of give them a nod or embrace, acknowledge that they're there, that affects them. That's one of the. As much as people hate Yoko Ono, she did have a really interesting art exhibit once where she was wearing a dress and everyone in the audience was given a pair of scissors, and they'd go up and they'd take a little piece of the dress off. Oh. And by the time it was just tattered, she was just the dress was destroyed and it looked so destitute. And the idea is that you just took one little snip, and that's all it takes. And it was a good visualization of that.
No, that definitely makes sense. Adds up.
So everyone's taking one little snip out of it, and you have to be the one who puts the scissors down and says, "I'm no longer participating in this." And I'd say this guy is just unaware, and unaware is a flavor of don't care. Like if I was unaware that my uncle had a drug problem, let's say my uncle was a massive heroin addict, I just never called him, I never checked on him, I never asked over him. I think it'd be pretty safe to say I didn't care.
Yeah, and that's part of why these days I do take issue with those who are like, oh, if someone's having their own issues and it's stressful for you, you just gotta cut them out. If they're gonna make bad decisions, you can't let them in your life for your own sake, which there are times when that is true, sure. However, people take that way too often now and do it way too easily when they shouldn't. Because I've reached out to try to help, loved ones before and just do what I could, even if it's just saying, don't forget that I care about you. And I've worried and I've had people tell me like, why are you still involved with that? You should just let them sure, they're miserable, but they're not going to get better. You can't fix them. You shouldn't be stressing about it. And I just think that's so wrong and stupid because you actually can make a difference.
You can if they let you. So my criteria for cutting someone out is if they are like unrepentant
Mm-hmm.
and like this is just what they do.
Well, and also if they're literally dangerous to you as well.
Well, that too, of course, yeah.
But yeah, if they really are so set that they have no actual interest, or even if there's no signs they'll actually change, then yeah, you do need to cut them. And that might be a shock to them to get them back in the right direction. You don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, I never really intend on helping others with their problems. It's never my intention. It's kind of like how you no longer have an intention to have a husband. It'd be great.
Right.
And paradoxically, it's much more likely when you stop.
Well, I don't tend to see it as that I intend to help as much as that I just kind of tend to care more than I feel most people do. And then I'll reach out and then I'll like, just, someone will be like, oh, what have you done? I'm like, I'll mention maybe a concern I had when I reached out to someone. And they're like, well, why do you even care? Why are you bothering with that? And I just feel like people don't care to such a degree about other people these days. It's truly horrendous. And it's found even in people who are otherwise, you could say, good people for what modern society has.
My criteria for how much I care about somebody is how much they care about themselves, typically. It's very heartbreaking to have someone who has a drug addiction. What you do is you got to find them at their lowest point and see how they feel about it.
Right.
And if they just don't want to hear about it, I'm like, well, then, like, if caring about yourself also means you're willing to hear some bad news, that's a really good way to gauge how much someone cares.
And I've had a couple of friends who have been through that sort of stuff and had issues who ended up reaching out. One of them, though, ended up going through the same sort of crap time and time again. And even though every time she said it would be different, it wasn't, if not actually getting worse. I finally had to say, you need to stop contacting. I can't do this. And another one, she's actually been implementing ways to get better. And she said, part of the reason she reached out to me is to surround herself by people she considers who would be better for her and who would be good influences. And I totally get that because I've done that for myself before too. And those are two totally different methods of it. But you have to be able to discern the difference when someone does have an issue and they're there.
One of the other criteria I have is continued care. Is if they actually care about me. So let's say you help someone in their lowest point and they're actually getting better. It's like, hey, that's great. If they don't turn around and like care about you.
Yeah.
Then it's like, well, that was a nice thing I did for somebody, but they're still a stranger to me. So
yeah, I'm still wishy-washy on that because I used to care about people even when it was clear they didn't really care. But sometimes, I don't know, to a degree, I feel like it's just so out of habit for our current culture to actually care about other people that most people don't even stop to think about it or realize it, and they otherwise would care if the situation were better. But I don't know. I go back and forth on it at this point still. Overall, though, I don't reach out to quite the degree I used to just for my own sake and be like, well, if they cared much more, they would, but
you should never do it if it's ever making you upset or kind of bums you out, or if it's just consuming your time and you're getting nothing out of it. Be selfish, cut them out. Doesn't matter. So okay, here's another before you jump in, it's like, are you caring about yourself at that point? Because you have to care about yourself too. If you're fully altruistic and you're very self-sacrificing, you're actually not helping everyone. You're just sort of facilitating them. And
that was a difficult lesson I had to learn over the years.
Yeah. It's a lesson a lot of women who mean well have to learn it.
Right.
And they should be helping you as much as you help them. So if you want real friends, find a running buddy or a workout buddy. Someone who you enjoy being with, just like little nattering talks, but you have the same goal and you're going to work to get the same goal. They're not better than you. They're not really that much worse than you. I say running buddy because it's very clear when you're running where you're at in terms of your running journey, right? How good are you? Because you're going to fall way back.
Other, if so.
Yeah, and it's a great visual analogy too, because you'll see the other person maybe falling back a lot, and it's like, yeah, I'm kind of not able to I'm not really able to be my best self now because my running buddy is slower than I am by a lot. So I have to like temper it. I don't feel like I'm getting what I need out of it. So that's life.
That's something I've been actually experiencing to some degree recently. With certain friends, I'll notice that they're still in parts of their life, or you could say recovery from certain traumas or issues, troubles that have happened over the years, and they'll be not quite to the point where I am with my own sort of healing in that regard and getting myself stable. And I can offer them, advice or say what's worked for me, or even sometimes even just point out what they're doing because I'd been there myself. And that's great. And sure, it does help to a degree. But at the same time, if I stay too in touch with them overall, or get too even friendly in some ways, it starts to pull me back as well, and I can't let myself regress in that sort of sense. Whereas I have a friend who's about the same degree as me, if not maybe slightly ahead of me in that sort of regard, and it's just a lot healthier for me to stay in touch with him. In fact, there were a couple weeks where I was caught up on some other stuff. I was talking to, some people who were new to me at the time, what have you. And I didn't talk to him at all really during those 2 weeks. And my quality of life went so downhill so fast. And then when I realized that, cut that group out, started talking to him again, everything went back to better. And me being more
Okay.
stable and happy and just content in life and feeling like, yes, this is going forward again.
Yeah, and you don't want to become dependent on that person. Find out what he's got. Find out what he has that's making you better, and distill it, and then get a
I've
piece
been
of that
trying
and
to
have it for
figure out
yourself.
what it is. I don't know what it is. It really captures my fascination because I don't know. I've told a couple friends I have no idea what quality he has, but it's like magic and it works.
Some guys are like magic. By the way, before we continue on the tangent, you wanted to talk about something today too.
I did. I was debating if I'd bring it up now or not.
Yeah. By the way, you're going to have to be I do not MC the show. If you have a segment, you're have to get it in there. Just shoehorn it in. So, and I don't mind that. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Because
I didn't realize that you had your own segment today, so it's like, oh, okay.
No, it's in the title of the video, I think.
Yeah, I didn't know till I saw it. Gotcha.
It's all good. It's all good. Yeah, no. All right, go for it.
All right. So these days we hear a lot, especially from the younger people, the people in their 20s, maybe early 30s even, and maybe there's some base teenagers out there even who also could ask these questions. And essentially it has to do with them feeling as though the situation currently is not ripe or well enough, stable enough, reliable enough for them to start their own family life. So I just want to go through, I think I've got like 4 of these usual statements we can hear and discuss them with you, and we can figure out how applicable they really are and how much of an excuse they really are, or what they could potentially do to overcome them. So the first one I got, which makes a lot of sense.
Share this? Do you want to share this list, or do you want me to share it? I could actually put this list up.
Yeah, if you can get it up, go ahead, please.
That's what she said.
I just, Mike.
I'm still a man, okay?
That's fair.
Oh, hey, it's working today. All right, nice.
Woo! So yeah, our first question. You have people saying, I still live with my parents. And a lot of people do. Heck, I still do at this point as well.
Yeah, man. You got a whole list of excuses here. And I got to tell you, I hate excuses. So this is going to be fun.
Exactly. That's why I thought this would be perfect. And I've got some ideas. And since you have more actual life experience than I do in this sort of regard, I figure, we can go back and forth, see what could actually work, what could actually be effective in getting around these potential excuses that so many make. So our first one, I still live with my parents. Now, parents, they normally want grandkids, don't they? And they normally live in better neighborhoods and bigger houses. So wouldn't it just make sense to talk to your parents and be like, well, you want me to move forward with my life. Why don't you help out so it just works better for everyone?
Yeah. A lot of parents also are clueless of the financial situation of the current world. They're still living in Boomer Town. I had adults telling me that I could work my way through college.
Oh, no.
No, you can't.
I'm lucky. Well, my dad's actually...
That's what my mom said.
But my dad's the one right after that one. So luckily, and because he was an econ major, I assume also, he's able to be like, wow, things really are so much more difficult. And so I got lucky in that he's made a point to pass on how he got lucky when he was growing up onto me and my younger brother. So
a lot of them understand that things are bad. They don't realize how bad it is, right? Like if I said, okay, Dad, this is what I would need to get out on my own. Let's say I'm 18 years old right now. I've convinced my dad that I'm going to go to trade school, but I need to live here. All right, actually, that's the first attack on this thing here, but I'll finish this thought.
Okay.
I'm going to need a car. I'm going to need a deposit on an apartment. I'm going to throw away this much money on that apartment. By the way, it's a massive, for the family finances, a massive sink. Like, I'd rather just pay rent to you, Dad, because then at least you get to keep the money.
Right.
Someone's getting the money.
Exactly.
And like, okay, so I have car, insurance, all this stuff, right? All this whatnot. And I'd say, like, this is what it stacks up to be, and this is what I'd be making, and all of it's gone. Like, there's nothing left. In fact, it's negative almost. And like, show them by the numbers, like, this is where it's at. Like, if you, and I'd say, like, Dad, if you see a way out of this, you let me know. But the math is here, and I don't see any way out of this. That's what I'd like.
Right.
After that reality, and they still don't want to help you, man, I feel bad for you.
Yeah, at that point, I don't know what you could do. And real quick, since while we're still starting this segment, it was inspired by a comment made by a certain Lotus Eater. So I'm just gonna send you the link real quick if you want to share it and do a little bit of a call out real quick.
The private chat. Okay.
Because I heard him, I saw him put this, and I'm like, come on, man. He's like, lots of men like me. It's like, okay, but you could make it work if you just, got a little creative with it. Come on.
Right.
But so many people share that mindset.
I see. For everybody who's doesn't feel like reading, because reading is lame. I'm fully Aristotelian on this. I don't trust the written word. It is dissociated from the voice, the people, both the writer and the reader. Let's put it in a time, people, in a place here. The UK's birth rate has fallen beneath 1.5, less than 0.7 below replacement. Adverse economic conditions and an adolescence elongated by institutionalized education discourages my generation from having families as early as their ancestors did. All right. Lots of men, like me, and women, not like me, I add that part, want nothing more than to be parents. We've had our futures indefinitely suspended due to the mismanagement of civilization by a managerial class who cannot value anything which doesn't register on a graph. We need a reorientation of the economy away from the abstract growth at any cost and toward the subsistence of single income families. We need a ring fence the family from the remit of market interest. We need a traditionalist case for degrowth, the insulation of the private from the public, commercial, and political sphere. And I will have to watch that because it is interesting.
Now, I will say, a lot of the points he touches on, I do happen to agree with. However, my contention is that it's not indefinitely suspended, as he says. There are things that people can be doing. They just have to actually do it. I would argue, at least.
Yeah, we can provide as much of an attack on this argument as we can. Of course, like individual circumstances might be there. I do want to challenge his contention that want nothing more than. That's kind of a pretty absolutist statement.
I don't know about that because I agree with that. I mean, that's totally me as well.
Well, if they want to know, if they wanted nothing more than that, then they would be doing it. This is about the caring, right?
This is the same sort of, we got into this earlier. Yes.
That's exactly. I do not take prisoners when it comes to this. It's like, all I want to do is get better. I want to get off of drugs. It's like, why are you still on drugs?
Well, that's part of
what
why
you want
I
is
made
drugs.
this into a segment, though, is because there are things that can be done. And so many people, including Mr. Tomlinson here, who happens to be a face on I don't know about television, but in the media, he has a voice that is heard by many. There are things that can be done, and he could be leading the way, potentially. I don't know his specific individual circumstance, but, there are potential options.
We'll still attack it. I don't know if he lives with his parents or not. But yeah, so
but I don't know.
Is living with your parents a barrier to having a family? That is... by the way, I rest my arguments not on abstraction. I also revile abstraction.
We've been through this as well in the past.
Oh yes. I revile it because you could just. Okay, so let's take an abstraction. Right, here's a good example. Like, a women couldn't be successful until the women's rights movement, and I just point to a really successful woman. I'd point to another one. I'd point to another one. It's like, these women aren't that exceptional. Like, this woman became a millionaire making soap, and this is not the soap makers I was telling you about. This is I forget her name, but she's like the first black millionaire in the United States, and she made beauty products.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, slapped her big fat black face right on it. Like, everyone was buying it, nobody cared. It's like, oh, America's so racist. Like, why is this like
we're not
brand
there.
with a black person right smack dab on it,
Yeah.
selling so well. Then,
and I will say the whole situation, that is part of why I wanted to discuss it with you in particular, because I know you'd have actual more grounded and objective evidence, etc., to be able to say this would work, this wouldn't work, based off the ideas that I thought up that are just from my mind and more abstract.
Do you want the answer, or do you want me to do the Socratic thing where I ask you to? Oh, I bet you could generate this answer. Which population doesn't let this become a barrier to them?
Is it the Asians?
Yeah, of course the Asians.
Of course.
Yeah, it's also the Amish too. I think they do it.
Actually, I think a lot of people used to do that as well. Well, the
it's virtually
Latin
everybody.
Americans, the Hispanics, yeah.
Well, the thing is, the United States and the West had it so good that they had the luxury of moving out before they started a family.
Right.
And now they think that luxury is the minimum
the
that
norm,
you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that also related to the English, though, in a way? I believe I've heard that it's kind of been a norm, more or less, for the English as well for some time. So I imagine it could be a link with that as well.
Well, I call it the West, the whole block.
Oh, fair enough.
Is that what you mean?
I was more thinking in the case of like the U.S. in particular, but.
Oh no, I said the United States and the West.
Okay, gotcha. Well, the United States.
I always qualify that. Yep. Yeah, everything west of East Germany is the West.
Semantics.
No, it's just geography.
I know, but you don't have to specify the U.S. if you're saying the West. We're the
I suppose
heart
I don't,
of the
but that's true. I could do that. See, now you're picking at me.
Exactly.
If I
this is not what we were meant to be doing here, but.
And yet we're doing it. I'm not just kidding.
Indeed,
all right, so it's obvious this is a lie. This is obviously dumb. Like anybody who says this just doesn't actually care. I would go down this. I would use this of like I love talking to guys about relationships, and I ask them like, how many women do you meet a week, right? And meet as in know her name, something she likes, and what an activity she indulges in or takes part in, right? Okay, her name is Sally. She works at the beauty salon. Okay, so that's her activity. And she likes tiny fluffy dogs. She just loves them. Boom. It takes like no time. You get your hair cut, you could do that. I'm like, how many women do you meet a week? Name, activity, something she likes. It's like, like 0. It's like, well, then you're not really trying. Okay, well, no wonder you haven't found any women. It's like, there's like, women are garbage. It's like, how many women do you actually know and meet? It's like, there's none. It's like,
and your parents should be helping you. They should want to be grandparents and want to be involved with their grandkids.
Correct. If you don't want to be, I'm going to put people on blast. Where the heck did the bookmarks go? Ooh. Oh, I zoomed in. Hate it when it does that. Whole button disappears when I zoom in.
Oh.
Okay, the biggest complaint, men. By the way, men, I love to turn the mirror and show you something. If you didn't ask your parents for help, you are her. You are this woman. You are pissing and moaning and whining. And you didn't even, and the person who could help you is sitting right there.
Right.
You are no better than this woman.
And that's part of the parents' role, is to set their children up for success. Sure, not all parents do that. Not all parents want to do that. But that is what it's supposed to be. And most parents, I would hazard to guess, are probably more willing to help their kids out, especially for grandkids, than most would be expecting.
Yes, like at least try. You have to ask so that at least they can let you down on their terms.
Right.
And not just be a disappointment in your eyes and you didn't even ask them.
Yeah, and not only that, but they might have other ideas that you could work with as well. Like it might be a no to the first idea you come out and ask them about, but they might have other things that could potentially help and work out in your favor.
Yeah, they might know something. Yeah, exactly. You want to go to the next point, or do you want to talk more about this one?
Oh, I think we can move on. I think I've said enough. How about you?
I think so too.
All righty. So I don't make enough money.
This is a big one.
I will concede that in extreme cases where you can't afford to feed yourself or, keep roof over your head at all, etc. Yes, there will be extremes where this is very true. However, I would contend that most people are not in those extremes, even when you're poor, and they technically could make ends meet for a family at that if they just would focus more on living within their means and also focus more on their family and the family's well-being as a unit instead of all these material things like people tend to do now.
Absolutely. So what
now,
is the
I know
threshold?
you come from
Yeah.
a poor background, which you said earlier this episode. But again, that's part of why I like for someone who's actually been through that sort of experience, why I'd want to bounce it off of you to see what you think.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I'm gonna try and get
Mhm.
something up on Google Maps to just show
Okay.
you a road that's near where I live.
All right.
All right. Okay. I just want to.
And I know people would say that a lot of the poor neighborhoods are really bad, which sure, true. However, there's still places you can go that are rather cheap that aren't in those neighborhoods. You just have to be willing to move around a bit more. Like relocate.
This place is about. Yeah, exactly. This place is about 30 minutes away from
Mhm.
town. Town has a full-on hospital, university,
Right, yeah.
plenty of work. There's agricultural supplies, all this stuff.
Mhm.
All these houses here, right? These
Yeah.
houses are not much. A lot of them are single wides where someone put a metal roof on it and then installed
Yeah.
a porch patio thing.
And
it's-
even up here, it's the same sort of thing. Not even a full hour, maybe not even 45 minutes out from the county area around St. Louis. You can get a place like this where you can actually get some acreage for relatively cheap. There's a little house, it's a nice
Yep.
environment, and you can go right up the expressway to get to the hospitals and all that, all the needs of modern life.
And this area is not high crime at all, obviously. It's very
Right.
far away.
No, it's nice.
If you're, this guy's got his own pond. Probably stocks it with fish.
Ooh, yeah.
And talk about generational wealth. They probably have multiple
Mhm.
generations living on this property, but
That's the way to do it.
little doghouses. Anyways,
Aw.
this money is a subject which people fill with fear. Like they're
Mhm.
afraid of the money subject. And
Indeed.
again, when it comes to trying, I ask them, did you make a budget? Like, did you run a scenario?
Mhm.
And I've never. Do you know anyone who does that?
I
Like-
have, but only because my dad made me do it to
There
make
you
sure
go.
that I knew how to work my money.
My dad made me do it because he's Asian and he's an accountant, but mostly it's because he's Asian. Like everybody, like we do spreadsheets for everything. Like here, I could actually
Mhm.
probably pull up like when I'm trying to build something, like a patio
Yeah.
or something like that. Let me see if I can pull it up. Like
See,
I run a
in
bill
my-
of materials.
In my situation, it was more that my dad's dad, my grandfather, came from a very practical farm family, and then my dad was an econ major who also wanted to make sure that his kids were set up to do the best they could. So,
Well, I find it funny that all these college grad people
Are the
can't
worst?
seem to do. Say what?
I said, are the worst.
No, well, yeah. All these college grad people cannot seem to do what farmers just do. Like
That's because most of these people shouldn't have gone to college. College university was supposed to be more exclusive and specifically for the scholastic academic types. And look what happened
Yeah.
instead. We got a bunch of people who should have never gone into it. Now most of them are in debt as well at this point.
So this is a financial breakdown, a spreadsheet I made bit by
Mhm.
bit. Right. So here's my taxes, living situation
Oh.
number 2. What I would do with this spreadsheet is it's supposed to be to compare situations.
Gotcha.
Right.
Like,
So here's my liquid
weigh
savings
the
without
options,
bonus.
yeah.
Exactly. Transportation, all this stuff,
Mhm.
insurance is built in, like total,
Mhm.
like total vehicle expenses, that sort of stuff.
Right.
Food and luxury, I have a budget for that.
Mhm.
So people say they don't have enough money. I was like, if you actually done the run the scenario,
Exactly.
I didn't want to buy a house until my dad sent me one of these,
Mhm.
and his was really simple. It was just like principal, interest, taxes, all this stuff, and that was it. And he just showed that an apartment cost twice the amount that a house would.
Right. Plus the other
And I didn't.
trade-offs.
Yeah, exactly. And he said he just, without even including rental income. So I rented out
Mhm.
rooms, I had room shares. And,
Right.
Basically had a free house.
Nice.
Yeah, so I didn't know that until I ran a scenario. Most people don't run these scenarios. So if they say
No,
they don't
most
have enough
people
money,
don't. No.
so when someone says they don't have enough money, it's the same thing as me asking, like, okay, you say you don't meet any, there are no good women
Mhm.
out there. Like, well, how many do you meet? Well, you haven't even tried.
Right. Or saying
My
your parents
parents-
won't help you, but you haven't even asked them.
Exactly. People don't even. I don't know if it's because we're all atomized.
Take some
but people don't feel like,
initiative, people. Sorry.
yeah, exactly. Like I want things in life, but I'm not willing to do them.
Right. It's
Like,
not going to be handed out like your stupid everyone's a winner trophies back in the day. No.
Yeah.
You got to take some initiative, be an actual genuine winner for once in your life. That requires taking action even if others aren't doing it. Especially if others aren't doing it.
Yeah, no one's taking care of you.
Mhm.
And if you ask and then they let you down, you're just going to have to realize that maybe, if you ask your parents and they let you down, that's just because your parents aren't perfect.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's not a
you're-
reason to completely hate them and cut them out. But at the same time, you still got to realize it is what it is. You got to do it for yourself more.
Yeah, my dad's a crappy driver, right? I don't hold that against him. Like,
Right.
I think he's trying his best.
Yeah.
He's just very short and very Asian.
Aw. Well, even if
And he
he's not
texts-
trying his best, there's still
texts
it's
while
not
he
gonna get
drives.
better. Oh, jeez. But that's the thing. You're not going to be able to stop that and change that for him. So you just kind of have to let it be what it is.
So do the loving thing and just accept your parents as the imperfect human beings that they are.
Definitely.
And then take responsibility for your own life. Quit blaming them. You sound like a punk when you blame your parents. All right. So for a budget, if I was going to build a budget, this would be like really fun, actually. I might build
classes
a budget
on this.
I might actually just have a stream where I build the budget.
Go for it.
You should join me. That'd be fun.
I will. Yeah.
Like, all right, here's like baby formula, that sort of like. Let's worst case scenario. Wife is not producing milk. I'm not worst case scenario, but like typical low end scenario. Like worst case scenario is your child is a racerhead, right? That's the worst case. I'm not doing that.
Wife died or is nearly dead. She's a vegetable.
Yeah, exactly.
The government's trying to use her to grow babies for other people.
Yeah, she's a Ukrainian refugee.
Child has issues.
Exactly. So it was like, what's the budget here, right? So, we just tell Connor to like put some skin tanner on and then like come in on a boat and get those gibs. That's just what it takes. Just all these British guys are just coming in.
Suggest that one to him.
Yeah.
Look, if I looked a bit darker in complexion, I'd get over there on a boat. But I'm a little too pale for that.
We'll work on our accents, right? We'll just
a little too pale. My eyes are a little too blue.
Or you just pretend you're mute. I'd do it. I'm dumb. You're dumb and mute.
I think I'm too proud of myself to be able to do that. Keep that one up.
I could base myself for money for all day long.
Oh, see.
That's why I'm ready for you two. I'm just kidding. In the most extremes, potentially valid. Yeah. I think it would be interesting to see a study. And I say a study, not like some academic study, but me running an actual scenario. So I'd go through to Swindon and I'd start running the rates on rentals, that sort of thing. Like what kind of budget you need. Honestly, like me and my wife, we thought that she was pregnant, right? It was like a miracle. We were like, oh no, she's pregnant. What are we gonna do? And I was like really excited. And then we were for our budget, we were like, he could sleep in a box. It's like I was like, that's fine. Just put some blankets in the box. He can't get out. It'll be fine.
I mean, you gotta work with what you got. He'll live.
What's wrong with the box, right? I mean, honestly, what's wrong with the box? I'd sleep maybe and eventually you get a bigger box,
Well, I think that's another aspect as well, though, is I know we're laughing about this because it is a bit more, I guess, out there, but people are so set on getting the top quality stuff, and it doesn't have to be that way. So many times you just get what works, and if it's good enough, good, you're set.
Now, yeah, people buy the cribs. People buy all the stuff that they're never going to reuse, like baby clothes. I don't know the point of baby clothes.
People don't do hand-me-downs anymore, or even within their own families. Like they don't pass on supplies to each other anymore, which is weird to me because that was still a thing when I was growing up. But
I mean, I don't know what people do. Maybe people do it, and I'm just not aware. But for the scenario, if you're saying money is a problem, then that's the kind of person who doesn't get the hand-me-downs.
Well, I will say too, though, families aren't as big anymore. So, for example, between me and my two brothers, only one of us is, married with a kid. It's my older brother. So there wouldn't exactly be the hand-me-downs at this point anymore anyway, and there wasn't any to give to him. But even if I do end up married and having my own kid, or if our younger brother does, I mean, at this point, our niece's stuff, she's 10 now, she's going to be 11 coming up. they don't even have that stuff anymore. They got rid of it because they didn't need it, which, fair enough. 10 years later, who would have thought? But so
I mean, clothes aren't that expensive either.
sure, but
Go-
even with other
go to-
things like cribs, etc., like all that sort of stuff used to just be passed between the family. Like I got stuff
Yeah.
from my cousins even back in the day.
I don't really know the point of cribs. I mean, it seems like a box does all the exact same stuff. I mean, I'm just bachelor thinking it. Like, imagine,
Right.
and you know that stereotypical bachelor apartment where it's just like a canvas
Yeah.
chair and a TV on the floor. Now just imagine that the bachelor also has a baby and how you would handle that. That's pretty much where my thought
Box
pattern
with
is.
pillow in
Yeah,
it.
the box the TV came in. Why not, right?
Yeah, and throw a pillow, some blankets. We're good. Oh, gee.
And actually,
That
it
could
is.
be
I
a
mean,
sitcom, though.
it'd be the same thing though. I'd probably cut like a memory foam pad and put it in the bottom of the box or something like that.
Hmm.
Or buy like a plastic box, like one of the ones that supplies come in, right? It's like, honestly though, people are paying for cribs. Like, how much is a freaking crib anyway?
People are paying for things they don't need to be spending that much for.
Crib, not crib. Crap, I'm gonna get like a little baby gangster. Oh, never mind. Target. That's where middle class people.
I don't shop there anymore, but
Yeah,
I used to
middle
love
class.
it.
Yeah, it's like $160 for what's basically a box.
Right.
With some bars.
And I know,
in
like,
it.
there are some places, like, around here we have, what's it called? Once Upon a Child. It's basically a resale shop for baby stuff and little kid stuff. You can get them cheaper there. You can go to around to garage sales. There's so many different other options, especially with the internet now, to find people, even locally, who are selling this sort of stuff or just giving it away sometimes.
Yeah, you can just look on Craigslist. Anyways,
Like, it
there's
doesn't
stuff
have
you
to
can
be
do.
top quality, best thing. This was expensive, so it must be superior type of
Or
mentality.
even just new. It doesn't have to be
Right.
new. Like, because that was $150. You could probably justify. I was like, well, it's only $150, but the stuff adds up.
It does.
Yeah. So
And then you feel like you can't afford it, but you actually could if you just stop being so uppity about it.
your standard of living, the base thing here is that your standard of living that you grew up with is going to be significantly reduced for your own children. You are not going to be passing on what you would receive in terms of experience. Like, there's no even though you didn't get an inheritance, right? Most people aren't getting an inheritance. You still had a childhood that had a lot of luxuries, and your kids aren't going to have that. Like, new toy is going to be a big deal.
You could argue they will still have luxuries, just different luxuries than you have, in that ideally this generation to come will be raised with more sentimental value and tradition actually being reinstated, and proper family life instead of all the material things that we grew up with, because that's just how it was at the time.
Yeah. I mean, that's up to the person, right? That's
Right,
the parents.
of course.
So who knows?
But
I think society is going to bifurcate. And you're going to get the people who have that and the people who don't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine with me.
No, I can see how eventually it would balance out, and the better end would probably win out, and it'd be better for people until things go bad again.
The thing is, it's like nobody had that before. At least half the country is going to have it. Hopefully, we'll see. I don't know. I don't really concern myself with the state of the country too much.
Right.
Yeah, I just for one specific person here.
Right.
Yeah, I'll do a study. I'll do a study on this.
Mm-hmm.
And see how much does it actually cost to keep a child going.
Right.
But they're going to have less material stuff than.
Well, and even with, for example, diapers, you don't have to go out and buy diapers. My older brother, he had cloth diapers. My mom had to clean them. Sure, it was different and a different sort of expense because there's cleaning, but it probably saved money in the long run. So
it's like an extra load of laundry a week, isn't it? Let's say you went through 3 diapers a day. So that's 21 diapers a week. I don't know. I don't have no idea how much kids poop. So there you go.
Yeah, it's been a while since my niece was that little, so I don't know.
So let's say it's 3 times a day. So it's 21 diapers. 21 of those cloth diapers could probably fit into a washing machine, right? And be a full load.
A cloth diaper itself, to get the cloth to make a diaper, is probably not going to be all that expensive anyway. And then you're reusing them. And then when you're doing the laundry, that's not as expensive as buying a new package of diapers all the time.
How much do diapers even cost?
A lot. My mom makes diaper cakes occasionally, which are awesome, but they're so expensive. The diapers cost so much dang money.
You said diaper cakes? What?
Yeah, so it's like when people make those fun-looking cakes, except they do it for usually for like baby showers, where they take diapers and other baby things and they put it into this cute cake looking sort of thing. It's fun and cute, but diapers are crazy expensive, I've learned.
40 cents per count, right? So if you're buying 360 at a time, did I click on something? Oh, wow, this website's funky. All right.
It's Target.
Size 4,
It's
yeah,
gay.
yeah.
No, I'm joking. Maybe.
So 360 diaper. All right, so 40 cents per count. That's probably about what it costs to run a load of laundry. So I don't know why people say that cloth diapers are more expensive. I mean, let's look at the marginal cost, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just dispel this rumor right now.
Okay.
Because people complain about diapers, and people say like, by the way, I think some of these rumors just get started by diaper companies. Like, oh, it's just as expensive.
They very well
to have.
could.
Yeah, because people just like, well, I heard, and then they don't actually do the math. Like, I heard that going to college would get me more money. You know, it's like, yeah, well, you're wrong there. So
exactly.
Okay, cool. 10 packs. So let's say I wanted to buy. Oh, here we go. 20 pack. That's about maybe, in my estimation, maybe a week's worth. I don't know. Depends on how much Mexican slop you feed your baby, I guess. But here we go. So 20 pack is how much? Where's it? There, 30. So it's the same price as a 360 pack, right? But this is a week's worth. It's a single load of laundry. Probably the amount of money to run a load of laundry is, I mean, let's just say high end is like at $1, right? So you got a $36, like a $38 upfront investment, and then let's say $1 marginal cost per week. Multiply that by, so by the way, if you can't afford $1 a week, then what the hell is wrong with your finances?
Yeah.
To wash these cloth diapers. So how long do kids usually need diapers? Like 3 years? 3 years old? So
more or less, 50, yeah, sure.
Times 52.
Well, even if you do 2 loads a week, so you have some that are still clean while you're cleaning the others, I mean.
There you go, yeah. So that's 300 loads of laundry. Let's say so that's $300 total over 3 years. But I think a load of laundry is probably going to be more like 25 cents. So let's just
probably. And especially if you can wash them with other things as well. I mean, you figure other baby clothes that got dirtied along the way, or even the what are those called? The rags that they spit up on and stuff. Like that's even better because then you're getting it all in the same load. You're saving money that way.
And
Whew.
How much is an avocado toast?
Since I started cooking for myself, I can no longer buy so many of the things from restaurants and such that I used to because I'm like, I could make this myself. Same for craft stuff as well, though, too. Started sewing and knitting and all that. It's like, well, why would I pay for this when it's already... I could just do it on my own. Granted, there is something to say about it being done for you and paying for that, but usually it's not worth it.
I don't know how much an avocado toast is from Panera. I'm looking. I wanted to see their menu. Let's say it's $10 for the full meal, right? Like, so for
Very
8
well
avocado toasts, you have brought a child from birth to potty trained. For 8 avocado toasts. Some people go through that in 2 weeks. Like just
it's
a little
crazy
bit of
how bad people are with their money.
Oh, they didn't even do this math, right? This math right here.
They usually don't. That's part of the issue, probably.
And I didn't do anything other than multiplication,
which a calculator can do for us. Yeah, everyone has access to a calculator these days. Everyone with this issue, at least.
Yeah. So I'm not impressed with the diapers are expensive. It's like, well, then don't buy them, wash them. I was like, oh, there's a lot of poop and stuff. It's like, touch the poop. You're a parent. You're going to be touching a lot of poop, okay? So touch the poop, clean the diaper. You got to clean the butt anyway.
Young, as a pet owner, you're going to have to get dirty. It's part of caring for other creatures, other life forms, is that you're going to get dirty and it is gross. And sometimes you're going to want to vomit, but you're still going to do it. And you have to. And it's a good thing.
All right, now let's do a comparison, right? So we said 312. All right, actually, so it's 3 years, right? So 3 years multiplied by 52 weeks per year. So that's the total number of weeks and times, let's say 21 times their kid's going to poop their pants. A lot of poop in their pants, okay? That's a serious weekend. All right. So you're going to need 3,276 diapers. Let's go ahead and divide this by 360. 9.1 of these packs. And we're going to multiply that now by the price of the pack, which is $46. $418.
Mhm.
So we're
And
going to go
that's
ahead and now
that's
divide that by the
relatively conservative estimates, assuming your kid doesn't get sick and have the runs or anything like that as well.
yeah. So here you go. I've reduced by using cloth diapers. You've reduced the cost of it by about a factor of 5.4, 5.36 repeating.
Yeah.
So, and even then, like the $418 to bring a child from, let's say you're just buying the disposable diapers.
Mhm.
Well, let's say it's $418 to go from baby born to potty trained. Even if you double that, then that's starting to get to be some money. Like if you have
Mhm.
a margin of error. But like plan, I don't know. I have no interest in babies. I'm not going to ever have a baby, unfortunately. But
Mhm.
if I did, I'd do the math.
Right.
I would ask people how many times do you expect on average a baby? The answers are probably on the internet. I could probably look
Well,
it up.
and there's something to be said too about how, because I've heard this complaint, I've made it myself before, that public schools didn't prepare us for the real world. Sure, but that's still not an excuse to keep yourself behind and not educate yourself and do the work to actually know how to do basic math and how to actually do finances and live a proper life.
The school has prepared you for the real world. It's just there's some extra steps you're gonna have to do. Like they haven't done every single thing for you. You're gonna have to use some common sense.
Right. I mean, I have my contentions with the school systems, but at least for my class and maybe the last, I don't know if the ones after it or not. In a lot of ways, I tend to feel like mine was the last that was taught to actually think, like not what to think, but how to think.
Yeah, and this is a discussion on public school. I have a controversial opinion as usual. It's not the school's job to teach you how to think. The school's job is: can you read? Can you write? Can you do basic math?
Yeah, I'm definitely getting to a point. I mean, for a long time, I've made the decision, if I ever do get to have kids, I want to homeschool.
Oh yeah.
But
no, that's going to be the bifurcation of society. By the way,
oh
the
yeah,
people who are
yeah.
going to
It's
do
already
well
happening.
are all homeschooled.
Yeah. Well, and
You'd be-
the thing is too, because this goes into the video we showed earlier that I had done with treating teenagers as if they're more mature and older, like back in the day, instead of like these kids who are just they're little kids. We gotta be soft on them, let them enjoy their childhood while it lasts. Because high school is more or less a daycare for teenagers who should have been doing other things. They should have had part-time jobs, or they should have been helping their families, etc. Heck, they should have been starting families of their own, even, I would dare to say. So I'm definitely at a point where I think the less schooling involved, the better, because in so many ways it just seems to set everyone back.
Well, I think Carl Benjamin was talking about this. Is like, why do I know Pythagorean's theorem? Like he was resentful. Like, why do I know this trivia on this stuff?
And a lot of people are, and I can't blame them for it.
Well, they're right. They're just straight up right. Like,
Right.
how much time did I waste? How much time did I like? Why did I need 4 years of English literature? What the hell did that do for me?
See, I was kind of an exception in that from early on, I think we've touched on this, and it's one of the very few things I can pride myself on throughout my life, but I was always, advanced honors, gifted student, whatever. And so it was always no question that I'd be going on to university. At least that's how we thought it would be. But I was the exception there, the outlier, whereas the system is almost framed that you'd think most people are in that sort of realm, but they're not. Most people shouldn't go to university, but they did.
I'll pose the question to you though. What did you get out of that?
At a public school or being
an English major or all the English literature? So my contention here is I took 4 years of English literature in high school. I was forced to do it. I don't feel like I got anything out of that. And I'm asking you right now, what did you get out of that?
See, I feel like I did get a lot, especially, I think the biggest point I would go to is learning how to speak insightfully on discussions with other people, especially because in high school English classes, that was when we started doing Socratics, where we'd read something and then all discuss together. And that was kind of where I especially found my voice in thinking out loud with other people and taking their ideas and also using my own and being able to disagree and concede and just various aspects like that, as well as just getting to read varying different pieces from all over the world, different time periods, etc. So there's a bit of being cultured as well as just learning about perspectives and comparing, contrasting sameness and differences between peoples of all these different backgrounds. But again, I think overall I'm the exception, not the rule.
Well, I'd also ask you, like, what did you get out of that? Like, so are you a lawyer? Are you, what do you, I mean, it's good to be able to discuss things and have disagreements and use the Socratic method. That is a good thing. You also probably could have just learned that from a YouTube video and then joined a discussion group.
No,
which is pretty
I mean,
much
that's
but what I'm saying though is that most, I would say not even you. I think you are also robbed, even though you are the what the system was made to produce. you are what the system was made to produce, and it was still a massive waste. Like,
it absolutely was.
You could have got that from a single semester at a community college, probably.
Well, not only that,
and then a lot of reading for enjoyment too. Like, you could have just done a lot of that. Like, all the culture. Most people hate the books they're assigned to read, and then like sometime in their late 20s or 30s, they discover, oh, these books are actually really good. It's like, well, it's because people are ruining it for you by giving you the third degree on it.
I never even made it to university at this point, and I still don't know that I ever actually will. I don't know that I'll ever actually get into the realms of the sort of careers that I ever intended for myself, or would still be interested in, assuming, you know, the miracle of ending up married doesn't happen. But even for me, though, it was a waste. Like, especially these days with how far YouTube and the internet otherwise has come, you can do so much online to learn for yourself and better yourself without having to go to a formal school. And again, school had so many downsides, especially because for my class, we were the last class in the area with the desegregation program. We had literal gangs in our hallways. And most of the students who were there, they weren't actually learning anything. When I dropped because of my mental health to more of the regular classes, I learned that you have to try to fail those classes. They're really just getting you through and getting you out. And at that point, that's not their problem. Exactly. And it's so ridiculous.
Let's see. Yeah. So anyways, in terms of not being prepared for the future, it's on you guys. Like, school is not supposed to do that stuff. Can you read? Can you write? Can you do basic math? That's 99% of what you need to actually succeed.
Right.
Like, English literature isn't. I would contend that your English literature education did not prepare you for the future any better than nothing would have. Right? It would have been in terms of preparation. Now, it's good to be Socratic and everything, but ask yourself, like, do you use that to make better decisions? Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Often we just still accept. If you need a class to teach you how to think, then you're just not a thinker. Sorry.
Right. No, I get that. And well, honestly, looking back, and I've said this, I think, other times. I don't know if I've said it on your channel or not, but one of the worst decisions I ever made while in the school system was when I was about, I think, 12 or 13 years old, and was with the first boyfriend I ever had, and nothing was really wrong with our relationship. We were, 6 months together or whatever, and it got to a point where I was like, we're just kids. This isn't going to last. Eventually, I'm going to go on to university, then have a career, and, he's going to live his life. So I'm just going to break up with him now, even though I don't really want to, just to, so it doesn't hurt more later after we get more attached.
Funny.
And, that was the worst mistake I ever made. Because looking back, I would have rather just stayed with him and just, heck, even if we got married and had kids as teenagers, that would have been so much better for me and him.
There's this weird thing where, like, ladies will just break up for no reason.
Yeah, I thought I was doing the logical thing, and wow, was that a mistake?
See, that's the problem when women try to use logic.
It is.
Absolutely,
we do.
I want the thing, the strain of thought I have is that I don't think women should have any moral authority or power. And people say, like, well, there's exceptions. Like, those are exceptions. Okay, like, I can also teach. I can also teach a monkey to run a railroad, like, intersection. There was one that did that. Okay. That doesn't mean I'm going to start the monkey training program to bring the monkeys in. And yes, I am comparing women with power to monkeys with a railroad track, because it usually ends in a train wreck, both of them. So yes, that is an apt comparison. It's like, so they're so neurotic that they'll start. It's like that. Okay. There was a scenario once where there was a glitch in the American computer system where they thought a bunch of Russian nukes were heading to them during the Cold War. That is what women's brains are like. They're like, see nukes that aren't there. It's like having there's nukes coming, and they'll start, like, starting crap in retaliation for things that never happen. Like,
well, it's also
go ahead.
It's also one of those things, though, that we just have to accept because it is biologically built in for a purpose, which is good. But also, we just have to accept it. We have to accept it's our natural tendency. Sure, exceptions will exist because they do, but we need to realize what reality is and live with it. not deny it like we do.
Men have a nature to want to have sex, right? And we've controlled that more or less. Like it's very unusual to have way sexual excess coming from the men.
Right.
Like I am not grabbing ass when I go to the restaurant. I mean, the number of like good butts to grabbed butts ratio is very good. There's a lot of good butts out there that aren't being grabbed. Now, maybe there's a lot of butt grabbing, but in proportion to the good butts that are on display, easily available, like
Yes.
I think the yoga pants epidemic has pretty much proven that men have a lot of restraint. We barely even look at women. Like it's so women need to also show some restraint with their nature and not be so dang neurotic all the dang time. And maybe just let things be.
Right.
And the problem is like ladies will retaliate for stuff that isn't there. They will form their moral compass entirely externally. Like men have an internal moral compass. It is 90% internal, where I can sit in a room with a bunch of other people and everyone disagrees with me, and I just continue to say what I think.
Right.
That is a superpower that men have. We can be the one guy in the room who disagrees. Like
because even for myself, I definitely do my best to try to be of that way more so, but I still fall into this thing where every so often I'll be like, wait, am I agreeing with this because I genuinely actually agree, or because other people are saying, I'm like, yeah, sure, that makes sense. Because I've noticed I am of that nature to just be agreeable and be like, oh, they say something, yes, I'm going to agree with it. But that's how women are. We get together, we talk about things. If we're all hating on someone, oh boy, we're all going to hate him terribly. But
well, that's the thing, is like women need to go to therapy to figure out how they think and feel. Like we need to talk it out, which is fine. That's fine. I'm not making a judgment on that, but that's very dangerous to give someone who is of that condition lots of power, because
you're not making a judgment, but
yeah, you can judge your own if you want. I judge men for being effete and useless these days. You can judge women for being neurotic, and so the thing is, like, that's why men are more stable in terms of head of household and as
that's
leaders.
How it's supposed to be, though. That's why it's complementary. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's the thing is, like, we have a singular moral framework that we develop in our adolescence, and that's our moral framework.
Right.
A guy who is a conservative is going to be a conservative from the age of 12 to the age of whenever he dies. Ladies tend to flip flop. Like you see a lot of these people like, oh, I used to be on the left, but now I'm a conservative. I was like, they're all ladies.
Yeah, like, for the most.
Yeah,
I mean, some effeminate men as well, but the thing is,
gay men.
That's right. That's why women are supposed to follow their husband's lead, and that's why he's supposed to be our rock. A husband is supposed to be his wife's rock because he's got it situated like that, and she can just follow. She never has to question or wonder when her friends are throwing ideas out and they're all making things up together that they then act like is real and a big issue that's not. Yeah. End of rant potentially.
No worries. So back to this. So we'll have a discussion on that later. Like,
yes.
No. All right. So no good potential partners. What are your thoughts on that? So,
they clearly have to be out there because there are men and there are women who are saying, but there's no good partners. All right. If neither sex can find a good partner and they're both complaining about it, clearly there are people of both sexes out there. We just have to find each other.
Yeah, that's what I was saying before. It's like people aren't even meeting each other. Did you ever get to the park, by the way? I wanted to give you crap about that.
Well, okay, to be fair, one of my friends...
I knew you wouldn't do it.
I have an excuse that might be valid.
Of course
one of my friends mentioned that it probably wouldn't be safe for me as a lone woman to go into a park where there's not very many other people, and so that's what happened. I was like, yeah, you're probably right.
No, she's probably wrong.
It was a he, but,
She's probably wrong.
I don't know.
Why would you not? Women go to places. All right, what kind of park is this?
I don't remember because it's been a while since we decided
any
which park.
I said any park you want, any park in the world.
Oh, I thought we had. Well, I mean, even the normal park I go to, I still have to be careful about it.
You be careful. All right, so is your contention that women can't go anywhere outside? No,
because I think that's stupid.
What? Wait, are you agreeing with that statement or not?
I think that women shouldn't be fearful and live in fear. However, we do have to be aware. I think there's a balance to be struck between.
It sounds like you're living in fear because you didn't go to the park. When you live in fear, you allow that concern to control your life and keep you from doing things that you want to do.
That's true. I would also argue, though, you have to figure the odds of something bad happening versus.
We're getting nukes coming in from Russia right now. Oh my God, there's nukes coming in from Russia. Are they real? Look, are they real? I knew you wouldn't do it. I knew you wouldn't do it.
I was hoping you had forgotten about it, but apparently
Yeah,
not.
I know you were. That's why I dropped it on you the second hour.
Look, I'm a lady. I have an excuse. It's being a lady.
No, that's not an excuse. That's a reason.
I mean, not entirely. Yeah, exactly. It explains it. It happens.
Explains it.
Even
Explains
I
why you're
slip up
single.
sometimes. How dare?
Do
It's
it.
True.
Do it. You said you were going to do it and you didn't do it. So you're a liar.
Well, you know, a friend, a
So
guy
fix
friend.
the lie
so I trust
and
in
go
him.
do it and sweat. By the way, is this friend really?
He's
Why didn't he
real.
offer to go with you?
He doesn't live here. Most of my friends don't live here, especially the guy ones.
All right,
I live.
all right.
My local friends are all female and busy.
I understand. I get it.
Yeah.
I've had enough patience. Go do it.
Maybe. Yeah.
All right. Okay. You're reneging. I got it. You said you're going to do something. Now you're not going to do it.
Gotta recalibrate real quick. Hold on.
All right. So this is why you can't find a good partner. Because you don't.
Look, I gave up on it.
You didn't go outside. Well, you gave up on it without trying. I got you.
Look, I'm leaving the country in a month.
And then you'll be coming back in a month.
That's going outside.
2 weeks after that.
I don't want to come back, but yeah. Anyway,
You're going to come back.
I don't want to.
I know you well enough to know you didn't go to the park.
Sure, but I'm only coming back because I legally and financially have to.
Yeah. Then you'll be right back where you started.
I won't be happy about it, but.
And then will you go to the park?
Potentially.
Go outside. Go outside and meet people.
Outside.
I don't care if you want to find a husband or not. You should just be socializing. It's healthy to do that.
I went down the street, and this creepy guy staying with my neighbors asked my age, and I was stupid because I thought I was just socializing with a nice neighbor guy. And then he got creepy and was like, good to know, because I don't want to get caught up in stuff with minors. I'm like, well, what? And then he kept hitting on me and stuff and trying to give me his phone number, and it was creepy. I'm like, shoot, even on my own dang street, this has happened.
Yeah, you live in a bad place, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I went downhill faster than
it'd be nice. It'd be a nicer place to be a park. That's where people who are pretty fit, like outdoors, go with a friend.
Sure, they just don't normally talk to people.
Well, how would you know? Because you haven't gone.
I've been to a particular park plenty in my life. However,
then this shouldn't be a big problem then, right?
Well, I thought we were talking about different parks. But no, the one I go to normally, okay. I've even tried starting conversation with people there. People here don't talk to people. I'm telling you. Something about the local community and the culture.
I'm going to say as someone who has not given up and has in fact succeeded at finding a partner, there are good partners out there. You have to go outside. Don't do it. Don't do what Lindsay's doing.
I go outside.
Not well enough, apparently. I have a wife.
I have to travel to go out well enough.
Yeah, Lindsay, I cannot. What did Review Bra say?
What?
My disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined. But my day is not ruined because I was expecting it.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, you didn't do what you said you're gonna do.
Look, I have a habit.
It's funny. It's funny that you found an excuse and I found a wife. It's crazy about that. Like, it's a funny thing that it's like an either or sort of scenario.
I've nearly found a wife before.
Nearly is not founding it. You found an excuse.
No, I mean, it worked out for the better that one didn't work out, but
it changes the subject. Go outside. Go places.
Right now, I'm on a stream right now.
Right after the stream. You said you're going to do that within a day or two, like a few days. Like, there's nothing stopping you.
Yeah, and then life happened, and then my friend gave his advice.
And then excuses happen.
You're not wrong, but at the same time,
Do it. I don't want to hear any more about it. We're moving on.
You're the one who brought it up again.
Now I'm putting it down.
Okay.
I brought it up to check on you. I'm putting it down because I am. If you would like to earn my respect back, go do what you said you're going to do and stop making excuses. All right. Good.
Next topic.
There's a little bit of bitter medicine for you.
No, I mean, it's needed. I found that sort of stuff works really well, especially for me, where like, sure, I usually get upset when
the stream is done. I want you to start planning which park you're going to go to and go. It is a Saturday. It is nice weather. What's the weather like there? Probably really nice.
I think it's supposed to be hot today, actually. It was nice the last couple days. But I think today it's supposed to get kind of hot again. The high for today is
83?
90, so yeah, it's
Yeah,
83 right
94.
now.
So dress breezy and cool.
I mean, yeah, I've got that, but
Go.
I don't even remember what I was saying now. I was gonna
Men
say
go to
something.
war and die for women, and
Oh,
you
I know what I
can't
was
seem
gonna
to go to
say.
a park and look around in the hot weather. So go.
Okay, it's usually
Do
not
it.
worth it around here.
I
But
don't care.
also,
Do it.
but
It doesn't
also,
matter if it's worth it. Every time when I throw my fishing tackle into the
Mhm.
lake around here down the
fishing's
street,
fun.
I don't always catch a fish. Doesn't stop me
True.
from trying. Sometimes I catch a fish. You know what?
Sure.
You can't catch a fish is at home.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't sound convinced, so I'm going to just assume you're going to fail again.
I mean,
To
I'm
do
not
what you said you're gonna
arguing
do.
because you're right. You're technically correct. I am
Technically
gonna
correct.
say,
Why don't you just say correct? Why do you have to say technically correct?
that's a great question that I should really reflect
You do a
upon
lot of
for
linguistic
myself.
games to try and skirt responsibility, I think.
Yeah, I do. And it's something
And it's
I
because
have.
you're a woman, and because I'm
It
a man,
is.
I'm going to call you out on it, and I'm going to train
No,
you to
that's
do
a
better.
good thing though. People actually need to be. That's what I was trying to say. Is that it really does help to get called out in blunt ways, where you have to actually answer for things, even when it's tough and you hate it, and even when your gut reaction or knee-jerk reaction is to be like bitter about it and be like meh, 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 or throw whatever. Even if it's to throw a fit before you get used to handling that stuff, because I had to deal with that stuff in other ways before, and I finally got to a point where it's like, okay, I know I have to go through this because being called out bluntly and directly works for me really well. I just have to get used to taking the criticism and actually owning up and doing better.
Yeah, let's see if you actually do better and go to the park, like you said you're gonna. Your words are worthless to me. They're worth less than nothing to me until you go to the park.
I mean, I get it.
I
can't argue with that.
You can't.
The logic is
The
sound.
man has spoken. So, by the way, if you give up on, so this is the thing that a lot of MGTOW guys screw up on too. If you give up on, there's a good giving up and bad giving up.
Yes, we touched on this earlier, didn't we?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm bringing it back. Is the good giving up is when you are still preparing as if it was going to happen. Just because, so these MGTOW guys need to be making themselves into good husbands, even if they don't have a wife, because that's how you become a better person.
Right. I agree with that for sure.
Yeah. So you need to work on being a better wife, even though you don't have a husband, because men marry wives. We don't marry girls, and we don't marry women.
Well, I've still been doing this stuff to better myself and be the better.
Except for going to the park.
Wife. Is it a necessity for wives to go to parks?
It's a necessity for women to do what they say they're going to do because they're adults.
Okay, you got me there.
Do what you say you're going to do. I don't want to hear any more excuses. We're moving on.
Okay.
All right. No good potential partners. All right. There are. So, actually, I might just move on past this one because I think we just had a live demonstration of that mindset versus me. You have to go outside. That's the main message to everyone. You have to try before you throw in the towel.
I mean, we touched on it in other aspects as well, I would say.
Oh
Clearly,
no!
there are people out there.
This last one, I actually threatened to kill a man once because the excuse was so bad. I was like so sick of it. I didn't threaten to kill him. I said, "There's a scene in the Pacific. It's a great miniseries about the Pacific Theater fighting in World War II.
Okay,
and it's a bunch of Marines, and one of the guys is like ranting and raving and like a little bit because the lieutenant took the Japanese pistol that this corporal found, right? And as far as war trophies go, an officer's pistols only really went to the officers, and they were very rare. And it's kind of a nice handheld thing. Like getting a Japanese pistol was a big deal, and this officer confiscated it off of this corporal because the officer wanted it as a war trophy. The corporal was incensed at this and was kind of like muttering to himself how he wants to kill the officer. And his friends, rather than console him, just said, either kill him or don't do it. Just quit ruining our coffee time. Like, kill him or shut up, basically.
That's when people talk about how awful life is. And like, well, if it's that bad, why are you still living?
Yeah, exactly.
Which I don't like to say for reasons, but at the same time, I always think it when it comes up.
Everyone does. Everyone does, because it's a pathetic mindset to be in. If you're suicidal, you are pathetic. You can work on. I was suicidal once. I was once pathetic. I used to also be fat. I used to have a lot of problems.
Yeah. No, yeah.
And eventually, you just say like, you got to take some ownership of that. And
you do.
And being nihilistic is basically just meaning you have no gratitude.
Yes, that
Like,
as well.
why
Well, I
bother?
spent
You know?
a major portion, if not at this point, still half of my life being suicidal.
Yeah.
And looking
It's
back,
very
I can see
common.
so many flaws with it, but at the same time, a lot of it actually was mindset stuff and being aware of, I need to be grateful for what I do have, etc. Now, granted, there was a factor that was beyond me that I couldn't quite help, but at the same
Yeah,
time,
the
there's
was
also a
the chemical
factor.
thing sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, there was that sort of stuff, and there was other situations as well, but a lot more of it actually was on me than I would have ever admitted at the time. And it was only in getting out of it that I realized, like, oh, dang, I could have handled that a lot better than I made it worse for myself. And I think a lot of people do.
Oh, it's ultimately selfish,
Hmm.
right? Like people who help others don't wonder why they get up in the morning, like
Right.
right. Like if you live only for yourself, then of course you're going to be like, why bother? I'm going to be dead anyway. It's like, no, I get up to help my coworkers. My job. I get up to go
Right.
and just be a pleasant person when
Well,
I go to the supermarket and say hi and do a little small talk and
or
thing.
even how I took it, because I took it to the opposite extreme, in which I felt like it would just be better for everyone who knows me if I just didn't exist. It would be easier on them, make their lives better, improve it, blah, blah, blah. Which at this point I do understand would be, wrong for other reasons as well. But even at that point, instead of thinking what things could I do to help myself be better at times, or to meet certain things where, like, yes, it would be better in this regard, even for those who know me, etc. It was not like, oh, I'm just terrible. I just need to not be here and everyone would be better off. But I
Yeah,
could have
yeah,
handled it differently, is what I'm trying to get at. Like, I could have worked on changing how I was reacting to everything around me. And granted, again, that wasn't the full scope of everything. There were still other issues that needed to be addressed. But again, I think I made it a lot worse for myself than I actually needed to, like,
yeah.
have.
So for these people who say like life is awful, why bother? Remember I was
Hmm.
saying before, there's a certain type of person who's ready for marriage and a certain person who isn't.
Yes.
I think you're kind of raised or born that way.
Hmm.
And if they're in this mindset, you can't fix it.
Right. No.
Um, Now, what you can do, however, is be
Hmm.
present in their life and
Yeah.
include them in your life because they don't have a life of their own. That's why. So
Right.
sometimes just saying, "Hey, we're going on a road trip. We need another guy to
Hmm.
drive." That's probably the best you could do. Just spend time.
Yeah.
See, even if they're
Now,
just a total drag, and then don't invite them next time. But you got to give it a chance,
right.
right?
I want to pose a question at you again.
Sure.
So, say there's someone who has this mindset, but perhaps they're aware enough that they want to implement changes to get out of the mindset overall, or maybe they still, fall into it, keep slipping back into it. Would that person, in your opinion, be worth potentially spousing if they're open to it
Uh,
and they want to, like, your lifestyle to rub off onto them and such?
oh, that's great. No, that's perfect. Realizing that you are not enough and that you want more from life is the perfect mindset to
Hmm.
be in. Like humility. That's the thing is
Right.
it's humility. Now the thing about the suicidal mindset is it's not humble. It's like I
Hmm.
know that everyone would be better off without me. I
Right.
know that it's like no, you don't know jack squat. Like you didn't even. Most of these suicidal people don't even ask. It's like a
Well, and if you
suicidal person
ask, you
never.
think they're lying to you and just saying it to be
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, yeah, maybe. Yeah, exactly. That's a man neurotic as heck.
I mean, schizo, bipolar, it's all
Yeah,
in there.
yeah. It's all in there. Sometimes you do have to just get medicated. Like my wife also,
Oh, yeah.
she has an issue. She got medicated. And boom, brain chemistry is right back
Right.
on. Some people need it.
Or
And
sometimes, for some people without medication, but other people with medication, there's also coping mechanisms to learn from a proper psychologist who's actually based and a proper doctor. I know a lot of them
yeah,
aren't
yeah.
these days anymore, but, I was lucky
Well, there's
enough to
also like
get one in my team.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. There's also
Oh, you're
like
good.
forums and stuff. There's people to talk to who really are trying to get better.
Right.
And
But
you go ahead.
I was just going to put in the caveat that you don't want to spend too much time talking to them and immersed among them, or else it
Yeah,
will keep you all behind still, if not make you all worse as well. Like, it
correct,
serves a
correct.
purpose in a way, but you have to be very careful about it.
You have to give stuff a chance. That's kind of the thing of
Hmm.
all of this. The theme of this whole thing is you have to try.
Yeah.
None all of these are I don't try statements.
Yeah. Indeed.
Actually, that's And this is why Asians rock, okay? Because we try stuff all the time. We're always trying. Like I used to try with women. I'd look at a woman, I'd say like, "Hey, you're a tall glass of water. Wouldn't mind getting me a drink?" Something like that. It's like, and she's like, "Shh." It's the Boomhauer skit, right? Like if I go over to YouTube, you know Boomhauer from King of the Hill?
I'd probably recognize if I saw.
All right.
Oh, I have seen. Yeah.
Can you hear this?
I cannot. No.
Oh, okay, dang it. I don't know how to get the audio through. But anyways, I'll just zip through this thing. What's happening is that Boomhauer is taking Bobby out to go meet women. Okay? His super secret technique is he just looks at them and then he asks them.
Yeah.
Here he's asking a woman. She walks away angrily. He asks another woman. She walks away angrily. He asks another woman. She walks away angrily. He's over here. He's being creepy. That's fine. And he continues asking women. The day go. He's double parked. That's hilarious.
Oh no.
And there he is. He's got one number. And there's a time lapse in this, so it took him a long time to get that number.
Right.
That one number is all you needed.
It only takes one.
Yeah, it only takes one. And just keep trying. The thing is, I don't know if it's like the Japanese in me, but you need to keep swinging that sword until you are fully dead. Like you've exhausted everything. Because the last thing you want to do is you want to be on your deathbed and sit full of regret.
Right.
That you didn't keep trying. And I kept trying. When I was young and I wanted a wife, I kept trying. And I would just be pleasant to people. I'd meet people.
Yeah.
At some point, it became a habit of mine where I would just meet people and interact with them in a friendly manner, and then I would let things happen. That's the proper way to do it, and it took me a while to learn that, is that you don't try to get a date. You sort of facilitate the conditions at which a woman might go, like, you facilitate the conditions upon which she will then signal to you that she wants a date, because women will give you a look. I had a girl give me a look the other day when I was at the Army surplus store of all places. I mean, I don't know what kind of woman. Yeah, it was Army surplus store, and she like looked at me like real bright, like I was a Christmas present. She's like, "Hi," and I'm like, I'm not wearing my ring today. Dadgummit. I just was like, "Hi" back. Gave her a nice, pleasant look. Like I gave her an approving look of like, you're not bad, because don't want to be the guy who rejects a woman by being like, "Hey, hi, bye, see you." No, come on, get. You want the woman to try that again. I want to encourage this behavior. Okay, you should look at another attractive man, and go like, "Hey there, perfect." Help some other guy out down the road. I don't want to sabotage some other dude by being weird and creepy,
right,
or whatever, being cold, not creepy. Anyways, so that's how you get a woman. That's how you get a woman. Just keep trying. You could probably marry her. Women are very malleable when they're, infatuated.
Always about, especially when infatuated, but to a degree. I mean, other times as well.
Yeah. At that point, you could just tell her something and she'll probably just believe it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we're going to go to church on Sunday. Of course. And it's like Sunday morning comes by. It's like, we're going to church now. She's like, what, really? Like, yeah, it'd be fun.
And even if she complains about it, she will do it. And it'll become a habit if you keep at it enough. And she'll enjoy it eventually.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, she's teaching your kids to do it too.
Exactly. And that's what positive people do, is they start building positive habits around others. So if you want a solid gold friend, it's a friend that helps you build positive habits.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, then yeah. Anyways, people who would say like life is awful, they're not trying. They barely tried. Maybe they're beaten down. That's not an excuse. You give them a chance. Give it a try. I was the kid who was beaten down, and someone gave me a chance, and I jumped at it. I was like, I think they invited me to go camping.
Oh.
And I just got to be myself, right?
Right.
Another pop culture reference is Simpsons Lisa Vacation. Yeah, when Lisa went on the vacation, right? If anybody's ever seen this episode, Lisa gives it a try. She tries being a different person. And she becomes one of the popular kids.
Oh.
You know, she's now separated from her grades. She's now hanging out with the popular kids, and she has friends. And it only takes one try. And if someone shows you a better life, you jump at it. You submit to it, and you jump at it, and you just give yourself fully.
Which
Another
can
reason
be
why
a
I'm
scary thing, but you gotta do it.
Yeah, that's why I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that you didn't take my advice before, even though I agreed on it, because I was hoping you'd jump into it, and that'd be a good sign to change.
Yeah,
you still have a chance. Still have a chance.
Yeah, that's true.
You gonna do it?
Maybe. I don't want to say for sure yes, because then if I fail, then it's like I lied.
Oh, you already failed. You've already lied.
Last time.
The yes means that you're gonna make good on it. So
that's the issue. Okay, my Taiwanese ex was the same sort of way. He's like, "Why do you say I promise?" or other stuff like that. If you say something, of course you mean it when you say it. You should mean things when it's like, well, I mean, I just think it's a little not exactly the same. But I'm not saying okay. It's a whole complex thing that I think has to do with cultures. But that's probably for another time.
I'm gonna bring in a simplex. Just go do it. You can go to the park by yourself. If it's not, if you got the vibe, and the vibe's okay, just go for a walk.
Well, I do that other times. I thought we had specified a particular one in this case.
Well, I specified a particular one. Why did you forget? I mean, if I had specified a particular one, then would you not be able to pull that up and know which one it was?
But that's the thing, like the one I had in mind in particular, and then my friend's advice made sense for that one especially. I'm like, yeah, well, you're probably right.
I don't believe you, but I will allow myself to believe you eventually. If
my
you go to a park.
Not as good these days as it used to be.
We'll
I
go
go
to any
one
park
particular park all the time, so
go to a different one. The whole point of this was you're supposed to try to get out of your familiar surroundings and out of your normal trajectories. That's the purpose of this. You're supposed to go out and try new things, go to new places, see new scenes, because you're not going to be able to find out that better life until you've looked around a little bit. Because the whole thing that I find frustrating about you is that you said that there's no one around for you, and this is just the way it is. And
not locally.
I know that, and I'm. How do you know? That's the whole point. I'm saying is that you haven't been everywhere. I've been trying
for years now. And even recently, I've been going further out. Well, I kind of have to, but to a nicer area for grocery shopping. The one close to me where I used to go, it's just too risky with the marijuana at this point and my issues that I just can't even bother risking it anymore. So I've been, a nicer location. There's people around and all this stuff, but still.
So there are nicer locations near you.
Some, yeah, and I go to them, but there's not people willing to engage, even if I try. Is the issue? I'm convinced at this point it is a local issue, and I just need to get somewhere else.
I think you will find that it is the same problem everywhere.
I don't know. I don't know that I believe that. I don't know. I feel like I've tried so many times locally. And at this point, and hearing from other people's experiences, it's just like maybe other friends were right that I just do need somewhere else, but the issue is escaping.
There are so many subcultures, subgroups, and subcommunities inside of an area as big as St. Louis that I'm just not going to believe you.
No, I mean, I get why.
Your methodology is flawed. I'm providing an alternative methodology. Just go to any park you've not been to before. Wait a sec. I don't believe you. Pull up on your end the messages where this person told you not to go to that park. I would like to see if there is because I want to know the name of this park.
Well, I don't even.
I'm calling you a liar.
I'm not lying. At least I don't think I am.
I think you are. See, that's the thing. You can lie without knowing
my memory.
All right.
Hold on. I have to dig through a whole bunch of messages now. Give me a moment, please.
Well, you can do that offline. You can do that offline, but I'm taking this as a personal slight. Go to a park.
Okay. But not the one I normally go to?
Yeah, exactly. Why would you go to the park, the same park? If you're going to keep trying the same stuff and expect different results. I just told you the whole point of this exercise. Can you recall to me what the point of this exercise is?
To go to new places beyond what's normal and common and comfortable.
Correct.
Yes. See, I was paying attention that time.
How long have you been doing that?
What?
doing that, the going to places that are uncomfortable for you.
I have been trying to do in the
No, I
past
didn't ask you
several
I didn't ask you trying. Like, where have you been doing it?
more than I did in the past years. Yeah.
Okay. How many years do you think you wasted not doing that? Like,
Far
what I'm
too
saying is that
many.
you have not. I learned new things about the places I lived like 10, 20 years into me living there.
Yeah.
Find new people, find new groups, find new hobbies.
I grew up here, and there's so much in the past, maybe even 6 months or more, a little bit more, that I've learned because I did start doing things. I started doing things on my own as well
That's what
instead
I'm
of
saying is
waiting
you
for
haven't-
friends
so
and
you're-
family to be available.
Well, you're 6 months into actually exploring your local area beyond what you've done before. I'm saying that you've got a lot of catching up to do, and you're writing off your current situation before you've fully explored it or even touched the surface of it.
And to a degree, yeah. And again, I'm not totally closed off to things working out. I just don't believe it's going to happen at this point. But if it happens, great. I'm not going to, shut it
But
down.
you got to act. Good giving up is where you continue on as if it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I'd suggest continuing to explore around. Go take a dancing lesson. I don't know. Go do something. Go to a farmer's market. Go to several. Go to different places. Explore. Whenever my life is getting stale, and I feel like I'm not getting anywhere, I go out and try new things. That's what you should. That's healthy behavior.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's
and
what.
And for the last 6 months, you've been kind of doing that. All right, I got you.
I'm doing it more so as time's gone on, and I've gotten more used to doing it.
That's good. All right. Where have you gone? Oh, we'll take this offline. We don't have to go and do this on the screen.
I was gonna say,
but you did promise. You did say you're going to go to a park, so you're going to have to go to a park.
Okay.
Because this is about keeping your word.
Park that isn't. I thought we had one in particular that was like a couple hours out or something, but maybe we didn't. I could have sworn we did though.
No, I didn't.
I didn't think it was.
I'm saying definitively, I don't remember saying that, and I wouldn't have said that because I don't care which park you go to. I just want you to go someplace unfamiliar. Maybe you got yourself spun up around something.
Maybe I did. My memory's been crap since I was put on medications back when. Like I used to have above average memory, and these days it's just terrible. I'm disappointed you didn't message me and clarify. It seems like you're trying to hide from this, which tells me that you knew you were doing it wrong. I think I forgot at one point, and then when I remembered, I'm like, oh, he probably forgot, and I'm just not going to mention it because I don't want to bring it up again. So, I mean, to a degree, you're right, but I do think I initially forgot about it. I don't know.
Okay, you're not going on this show again until you've done it. And I want to see pictures. No, I'm serious. Like, I take this as a massively disrespectful. So maybe there's a misunderstanding. I don't really care. Go do it. You are not wife material. You're not even friend material until you do this because you said you're going to, and I care about you. Let's see if that care is valued or if it's discarded.
That's fair.
How's that sound? Go do it.
Yes. No, that's fair. We can even post it publicly so everyone can see, oh, look, I made it to a park. Here's a picture to prove it.
Yeah, I don't see anything on your stream of you or on your Twitter of you doing new things, trying places, smiling, happy.
I try to not put pictures of myself that much on Twitter because I don't want to seem vain.
You don't pick pictures of yourself. You put pictures of the stuff.
Yeah.
You could social media post like a man does, where we just take a picture of the thing we want people to see and not put ourselves in front of it.
Well, I've been trying to handle my social media differently, where I keep it exclusively to more, I guess you could say, business things, but not entirely exclusively so. Whereas I used to just kind of post random things here and there, but it's like, maybe I should be different. I don't know. I'm still figuring it out.
On social media advice I have is that for social media, your life is the business. Every single person is selling a lifestyle.
Oh, I've heard that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So bring your lifestyle.
But I don't want the whole life to be on.
I didn't say that.
Yeah.
Hey, you don't have to. I didn't say that.
But a particular lifestyle that's cut out of pieces from the whole life. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're trying to put some weight behind the words, because if it's just a bunch of abstracted words on a timeline with no person behind it, it's not going to be very powerful.
Yeah. No, I get that.
That's the social media advice I have.
Okay.
Do it. Go new places.
Yes.
See how it goes. If you're not successful, then assume that you're doing something wrong and try to make adjustments. But you will be successful. You have a defeatist mindset because you've already accepted defeat. And
I'm not opposed to being proven wrong. I'll be happy if I get proven wrong. I'm still doing stuff. I'm not like giving up entirely or like, oh, no hope anyway.
Do the good giving up. The good giving up is where you're no longer worried about the results, but you are preparing as if it's going to come.
Which is where I've been, I'd argue.
You'd argue. Oh, all right.
Except for this one particular instance of this park.
I'll believe it when I see it, yeah. Okay.
Fair enough.
We're going to go offline. I would like you to give me 5 places you've been in the last month.
I don't know if I can remember that much.
No, then I'm not going to believe it. So you're just going to have to be okay with me thinking that you're not doing it. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. I don't know.
Yeah, that is another thing I get I've always gotten hung up on is when people don't believe things that I know are true. And I'm still working on letting that go to a degree at this point in my life as well. Because I used to put, it just used to stir me up so terribly bad, and I'd get way too stressed out over that sort of thing. My dad would be like, why are you worried about what other people, what?
How many compliments have you given men in the last month? Have you given any?
I've given compliments. I'm trying to think if men specifically or not, and how many. I like to hand out compliments, but I'm not sure the demographics. I'm trying to think.
Okay.
I know the few times I can think of that are coming to mind were women, but yeah, I don't know. Okay,
I'm just saying that's a really easy way to meet guys is just compliment them. You don't have to have any
complimented a guy's
social...
dog before, and that didn't work. He kind of got creeped out, I think.
I wonder why people don't have that reaction.
I
said, I wonder why someone would have that reaction.
Yeah, I don't know, because I was genuinely impressed by his dog, and I actually knew a bit more about it than most people do, because my friend had one of the same breed, and like I asked, like, what was it? I think I asked about which breeder he got her from or something, because again, this is something a close friend of mine has ties into and all that, and the more I tried to, enthuse, the less he seemed willing to want to deal with me. And at one point, he just kind of sent a look over his shoulder because I was waiting for a friend to arrive at a park I was at. And he just kind of left. And I'm like, I think he hated me. He definitely didn't want to talk to me. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of...
People don't take compliments well here. People get offended if you just say hi to them most times. Like, you're supposed to look down and walk by.
Yeah, my biggest concern is that you think that going to England is going to be an improvement.
Look, I'm not expecting to find a husband. I'm going to hang out with a friend, maybe a couple other friends. I'm going to enjoy being there. And if anything special does happen, fantastic. But I'm not counting on it.
I just mean like the people being friendlier. How much have you been outside of the St. Louis area?
Outside of St. Louis?
Like outside of, you say that your area is not a great place to meet people. Have you gone outside of it?
Like, in my adult life, not as much as I'd like. Okay. Like on my own, I mean. Because even when I used to go to spend time on the coast with my older brother and his family, I did more with them because back then I was still too timid to go out on my own and whatnot. So only within the last couple of years have I started doing things on my own outwardly when I do travel. And try to separate myself from comfort. So basically, almost none.
No or yes. Okay, almost done. All right. So my concern though is if you don't get out there and find positive results elsewhere,
that I'll just expect it's... Yeah, there won't be any at all.
People of England aren't really the most friendliest. That's what I've heard. Is they're kind of like...
Well, I'm not planning to necessarily, I don't intend necessarily to meet new people. It's mainly, if it happens, that's awesome. But otherwise, I'm going to enjoy my visit for what it is while I'm there. Okay, see the friends I can see while I'm there.
I'm not sure why. All right, why do we have England then in the brought up in the context of getting out of your area and being in new places?
Because it's out of my area. It's a new place. I've never been out of the country before. Okay. This is my country. That's why,
all right.
Because it's new, and it's a big step for me personally.
Okay. I'm just saying you could also just go to another state too.
I could, but I don't have friends in other states that much.
You just go on a trip,
friends
go
in
to a park.
England.
Parks are a good destination because they're usually outdoors.
Yeah, you can also get murdered by strangers at parks. I'm a lady, remember?
Oh, there's the nuke again.
It's not wrong though. I could pull up cases that's happened. I have friends and family who are obsessed. They're all women who are obsessed with true crime. I'm luckily not, but the fact I still am around it all the time and have loved ones who are, it has, rubbed off
Middle
a
of the
little
day,
bit.
surrounded by people, you think you're gonna listen.
Well,
If
you're
you're
not
gonna
always
live your
surrounded
life
by
in fear,
people.
then it's not really worth my time. I'm gonna put it this way. I'm not
But I
gonna
don't think
tolerate it.
I do. I think there's just alternatives.
This is Burgess Falls Park. It's really nice.
Where is it?
I don't know. It's in Tennessee. It's right down the road from me.
Oh.
It's a massive waterfall. And it's just out in the middle of like nowhere. Well, it's not in the middle of
Well,
nowhere. It's just next to a town.
There are
There's
a
people
lot
all
of
over the place.
amazing parks. Yes, I agree. Even around me, there are plenty because my parents used to take my brother and I to them all the time. And my
But you're
friends
afraid
and
of
I used to
getting.
go to them.
Oh, yeah. Well.
Yeah.
I'm
I've been
afraid of getting
meaning.
murdered though. Okay, I got it.
Well,
Be
it's
afraid.
something you gotta consider. I try to, stay aware of what's going on. I keep pocket knives on me, etc. And usually I try to take at least one of the dogs with me.
Listen,
But,
I see a lot of ladies at parks, and none of them are worried about getting murdered.
yeah, there's also a lot of ladies
in
who walk
broad daylight?
around with short shorts that are basically cloth diapers who don't worry about and then get upset, about the
Do
whole
you
rape
think?
stuff.
I mean, I'm going to ask you this really, really quick. Do you think your fear is rational?
To some degree.
Yes or no question. Stop weaseling out of it. Do you think it's
Well,
rational
but
or
that's
not?
the thing. I think it is to a degree, yeah. Maybe not
The answer
entirely
is-
so. It
the
might be a bit
answer is-
exaggerated, but it's
answer is
still
yes.
rational in a way, yeah. It's rooted in rationality, which
Okay.
might be language games, but
Yes, it is. You're playing language. You always do this.
it's true though. It's still true though. It's of my nature. I'm still working on improving. I am a work in progress still. At least I acknowledge that.
You know, it'd make a really good progress if you went to a park. It'd be
You're
really good.
harping on this park thing. Real
Go
bad.
outside. Yeah, first
I
off, you
do
said
go
you're going to do
outside
it.
all the time.
Don't believe you. I mean, you lied to me once already.
I mean, you technically don't have to believe me. I know what I do in my daily life.
I don't have to care about you either, but
jeez,
that's,
I mean that's
if
true.
that means so little to that means so little to you. I took time out of my schedule to give you advice. I talked you into doing it. We both agreed it would be a good thing, and then you just didn't do it. You got maybe turned up, okay, turned around, forgot about it. Which, by the way, forgetting about things is a sign you don't care.
I don't know about that.
It is.
Because these days, my memory issues are to the point if I don't make notes of things,
write it down.
I tend to forget a lot.
Write it down.
Yeah.
This one you didn't care enough to write it down. That's interesting. It's an interesting thing to think.
Well, I talked to friends about it, but then things got busy, things happened, were stressful, and then, yeah.
Let me just share my screen.
Okay, share your screen then.
This is a nice park. It's a park right there. Look at the happy people.
Oh, there's people.
Happy people in the park.
Yep. Is this the one we were? Yeah, the Burgess one.
Yeah.
Okay, there was also the miscommunication aspect, I will say, because I'm convinced.
I don't know. I don't remember. You didn't write it down, so you didn't care to write it down. So I don't know.
I'm going through conversations I had with friends and seeing if I mentioned any of them because I could have sworn there was one like a couple hours out that we had specifically looked at, and you're like, "Yeah, sounds good."
I don't have medication-related memory issues, so
I do. So I can't.
If you had that conversation, why didn't you come to me? If you had that conversation, why didn't you if someone says don't go, it'd be dangerous alone, why didn't you come to me?
That's a great point.
You keep
that would have been my fault.
And I'm not going to accept it. Go to a park.
I will.
Yes, I am harping on the park. It's not about the park. It's about you doing what you said you're going to do. And caring enough. There's an exercise in caring.
Let's see.
I'm also trying to figure out how to get up here on a kayak because allegedly you can get here on a kayak. Now, obviously, there's the waterfall. Which, by the way, there's no guardrails here. You can just slip and fall and die. That's how Tennessee is.
I mean, that's the way to do it, though. If you're not risking something, are you really on an adventure having a good time, living life?
Why can't I click on the...
I don't know.
Google Maps, you suck.
When was it that we initially talked about the park thing?
Months ago.
Oh, that doesn't help. I have so many messages to go through. Hold on. Ah.
I'm past it. You can save your effort. Your path to redemption is clear. Find a park and go to it in your area.
Oh, I will.
One that you feel
will.
is safe. Good. Will not be permitted on this show again until you do. Nor will I talk to you or read any of your messages.
I was gonna say fine and fair, and then you added that bit, and I mean it's still technically fine and fair, but I'm not happy about it.
Why would I read the messages of someone who cares so little about my advice?
It's fair. It's fair.
You know,
I can't.
I feel like I was talking to someone who was I feel like I was talking to someone who binge eats, and I gave you a lot of good advice, and then you went to an all-you-can-eat buffet, and you just crapped all over that advice.
No, yeah, I mean, I've been in that position as well, where I've given advice. I'm like, why didn't you listen? And I do the same thing. I'm bad about it. I'll admit it. It's something I've been working on and still need to work a lot more on.
And I have more self-respect than to allow someone to do that to me. So you're going to go to the park. You're going to take some pictures. You're going to have some fun. You're going to say hi to people. Just wave. If people are creeped out by you, we will do an exercise where I take a look at your face and you're just going to like simulate saying hi. And I'm going to see if there's anything creepy about you.
I'm not saying all people are creeped out about me, because old folks, they're great. But people my age, that's the issue.
People that matter, yeah, exactly.
People that matter. Kids love me. Babies, they always look my way. But people my age, I don't know. They don't like me.
Practice. You've put this off for a long time, so you probably have the experience level of someone who's about 12 or 13 years old.
Actually, probably less than that, because my life basically got on pause for like a whole decade because of my mental health, in which I mean, I'm behind my peers. I already know that in like basically every regard.
And I know exactly what that's like. I had the same issue with my Christian faith.
Yeah.
I'm kind of starting fairly new.
Right. And that's why I'm trying to catch up. And it's not easy. And there are slip-ups, but still working at it. I can at least say that.
I wouldn't say that you can say that, because you haven't been to the park.
Okay. You have that point.
Going to the park is kind of like going to church. Like go... And so you're saying like it's like a Christian who's like, I'm new to the Christian faith and I'm really struggling with it. It's like, have you gone to church yet?
No, yeah. In that regard, yes.
Yeah. So it's like I'm harping on it because our words are important. And if your words aren't important, they're not important enough to defend, clarify, or whatever.
Yep.
Then you're not important.
No.
And I'm not important. And I don't like relationships where people aren't important, because the words we say is what defines us.
Definitely. And that is one of the things I've been reflecting upon, in a sense, because I have been uploading more to like YouTube and trying like Rumble even and stuff like that, where it's like I can't just say these things that I know are accurate or better and then not do it myself to the like as full of the degree of as I can. Yeah,
don't say that you're getting better and you're working on it to anybody until you've done it.
I mean, I'd still argue that I have been.
That's like saying, all right, so when someone's trying to lose weight, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, me.
They don't usually broadcast it because you get the pleasure from broadcasting it. Let the weight loss speak for itself. If you broadcast your progress, you start getting the social dopamine before you've really finished.
I think I see what you're saying.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Until you let other people give you that dopamine, do not seek it out. Do not tell people. Do not say. I'm still talking. Do not say the progress you're making. Let people notice.
Yes, I agree.
You're addicted, and you are satiating and coping with the approval of others.
But I haven't been getting approval from others.
Well, you keep telling me about all the progress you make and all the stuff you're working on.
No, I'm just stating the fact that I have been on it and making some progress.
Don't say the fact. It's stating the fact as. But first off, no one states a fact for no reason. There's always a motivation behind it. Don't try to pull that one on me.
Sure, or there's, a purpose in bringing it up and making it known.
Well, the purpose you're bringing up is trying to like deflect from the thing that you deflect from the fact that you didn't do what you said you're going to do.
No, I'm just still in progress of working on improving. There will be
slip-ups.
Yes,
you've made I see zero progress.
All right, because you have one aspect to look at for frame of reference. And it just so happens I didn't meet that one particular.
That's the one thing I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's more to it than that.
I don't think so. Because I don't see it.
Yeah, but I don't report to you with all the things.
Exactly. I only asked you to report on one thing, and you came back with nothing.
Yeah, so it's the sort of thing where I get what you're saying, but at the same time, to then be like, oh, there's no progress
I didn't say there's no progress. I said I see no progress.
But most people don't pick up on that sort of difference in speech.
That's because I consider words very important, and I choose them carefully.
Which is good.
Yeah, so listen to them.
No, yeah, I am. It's just
go to a park. Everything. But by the way, everything you say is worthless because your word is worth nothing to me right now. You have to go to. You need to make good. You have to make good on this. You have to make good on this as soon as possible. You said you're going to do it within a day or two, and then I heard nothing, and then you hoped I forgot about it.
Yes, and that was wrong. And I know I'm getting a bit attitude-ish or whatever you'd want to say. That's
you're getting defensive.
Just the state of being called out. Yes, I do agree with you, and I
everything after I was stop. Everything after I was wrong needed to not be said.
Why?
Because there's nothing else to say. Just say I was wrong, and I will say yes, you were.
Yeah.
I think you will do better, but you have to show me.
Yes, and I will.
So a lot of people think that submission starts at marriage. It does not.
No.
Men naturally submit to each other, like in cooperation. Yeah. We have a cooperative submission.
There's a hierarchy.
Part of submission and part of the hierarchy is that our words are meaningful and we are accountable to each other. If I go to Glug Glug and I say, we need fire, Glug Glug, can you make a fire? And I go out and hunt and I come back, there should be a fire. I should be able to expect Glug Glug. I don't want a bunch of excuses because I got a bunch of raw mammoth meat right now. So part of submission just means accountability.
Yes.
And we have to be accountable to each other as a community, as friends, as people, before you can be ready for any closer relationship than that.
Households, between siblings, parents, and children, etc.
Yeah, that's a foundation of all relationships is accountability. So you need to. So you were wrong.
Yes.
Because you're learning.
Yes.
There we go. So the thing is, you have to submit to me and just admit you were wrong and don't provide any comfort to yourself. I will give you the comfort. So trust me to do that.
That's an interesting way of framing it. Which, I mean, I see how that's beneficial. I just hadn't necessarily saw it.
Men do not tolerate the speech among each other, and I think women need to learn from men.
Yeah.
So it's not our responsibility to fix society. It's our responsibility to abandon society when it's no longer working. That's the Christian way. We leave Sodom. We leave places. Christians run and we exile. Those are the two responses we have.
There's definitely something to be said about, especially women these days, being in the habit of over-explaining, because it's a nasty habit I have with myself. Even
exactly. If you feel like you have to say it if you feel like you have to say something to feel better, then you should not say it, because words are not supposed to be there to give us. Our own words are not to provide us comfort. That's like verbal masturbation. Accountability to other people is that you let them determine what is acceptable or not.
Yeah, that's a lot of times when I type things up these days before posting, I try to get myself to stop and ask myself, did I really need to add this sort of explanation in? And a lot of times the answer is no. Even though I feel like usually it's out of habit to just add it in the first place. And I'm like, but it takes away some context. But then it's like, well, it's not really needed context though. And I know I heard this from some priest, I think, who was talking about with confessions. He's like, when you go to confession, you just say what you're confessing, the sins themselves. You don't need to explain them. You don't need to go into detail about them. You just say what they are, and it's good. That's all you need to do. Because a lot of people are in the habit of apparently giving too much, which I used to as well. So
try to speak decisively and with as few words as necessary.
Right.
And then you'll be able to choose those words carefully.
Yes.
And then your words will have meaning. So
I'm having a thought to potentially take a slight tangent for a little bit. I feel like, because I've worked with words since I was really young, always had kind of a knack with them. But in a sense, I also feel like I've kind of the way I've always used words was almost a sort of, I don't want to say magic because not technically, but in some sort of way, it's the kind of words where it can get things done. I know how to use them in ways that benefit me, etc. However, I think there's something to be said about then using words, not necessarily in that sort of sense, but using them in the alternative way where it's more matter of fact and to the point and honest, even, if that makes sense. I'm not sure exactly.
Yes.
I don't think I'm
There's
expressing it totally correctly.
no, I think you did a good job. There's honesty and brevity. So here's
Mhm.
what it looks like from my perspective when you explain a lot of stuff beyond.
Mhm.
I don't want to hear the facts. I don't want to hear your facts because the facts are immaterial to what I want, and
Mhm.
I just want my word honored.
Right.
The thing is, explanation takes on the meaning of excuse whether you want it to or not. Your intention doesn't actually matter.
Right.
So what you're doing is you're trying to gloss over the slight.
Mhm.
You've probably pissed off a lot of people doing that, and you had no idea.
Probably. Yeah.
So don't do that anymore. Every
Okay.
day is a new
Question.
day. Every night, Lindsay, the old Lindsay dies, and a new Lindsay rises from the ashes like a phoenix every morning. Every day we are different and better if we
Yes.
want to be. Yes, you
Right.
had a question?
Aren't there? Wouldn't there? Again, this isn't going to be the majority, but just to have it out there on record, would there be cases where the explanation would actually make a difference, though, for potentially
That's an
seen slight?
I appreciate the. This is a good
Disclaimer?
abstraction, I think, because it explores the principle of it.
Okay.
That's up to me. All right, so in this
Sure.
situation, that would be up to me,
Right.
and I would ask.
Okay. No, that's fair.
So whenever I'm disciplining an engineer or
Mhm.
a child, and I guess
Mhm.
in some cases a woman, I don't want an overwrought explanation. I don't want any explanation. The first thing I want is I want contrition. If I did something wrong, I made a mistake. That's exactly what I
Right.
do.
Okay.
It's like, Alec, Glug Glug, where's the fire? And Glug Glug says, oh, Glug Glug bad. Glug Glug sorry. All Glug Glug fault. It's like, what you do there is you've immediately, so I'm going to speak utilitarian here, or a bit more as utility. You've sort of disarmed the other person and you've put yourself into a sympathetic light with them.
Right.
You're no longer trying to satiate yourself with facts. I don't think it's a fact that you forgot. Because I don't agree on so the thing is, if you give facts, you might start with facts they don't agree with. And the trust the trust meter just goes down and down and down. You can only hurt yourself. It's kind of like when you're in front of the cops. When you're in front of the cops,
and the more you
everything
say, the
only
worse
hurt.
it is. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, the words will only hurt you. You have to let the other person lead, because when you've made a mistake, whether it's intentional or not, whether there's an excuse or not, whether you had any power or not, you have to apologize and let the other person process it, because that's showing some love. Because the other person is disappointed.
Right.
They might be hurt. They might have been counting on that, and they don't want to hear a bunch of excuses.
Right.
Because everything that's said after I'm sorry is an excuse to them, and you got to let them process it and let them turn around and become merciful. Give them a chance to work with you to make it right. Because if you try to dominate the conversation with a lot of explanation, or any explanation, don't explain it. Just get in the habit of saying, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Mum's the word. There are no facts necessary after that.
Okay. I get that.
When you use those words, what's the intention behind it? I want to provide some more facts. To do what?
To explain why it wasn't entirely my fault.
Why are you explaining why
Lessen
it's
the damage?
Lessen the damage. Okay. Well, what?
Not
So you're trying
bad.
to lessen. What does that mean? Lessen the damage.
The hurt of not fulfilling the other person's expectations.
I would be, that's the wrong way of thinking about things, because the hurt is going to be there and the failed expectations are there. The explanation, explanations don't actually comfort anybody when they're disappointed.
Yeah, I think in a way they're reflexive, especially these days, which is why we have to start practicing.
Yep. You're speaking without thinking. You're not being careful.
And speaking out of emotion and fear as well, I would.
Correct.
potentially say.
And the thing is, the paradox of relationships is that you have to put yourself in the most vulnerable position
Yeah.
to actually get mercy at all. It will become a fight. So
Right.
I've hopefully solved the potential fight you would have with a partner in the future. I'm going to still talk as if you're going to get married because that's what I think is going to happen. So your future husband, you'd have a fight. This would be a fight.
Right.
Luckily,
No,
I
it
find you more.
would.
Yeah. Luckily,
With-
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I was gonna say with exes, I got into fights over the stupidest things because I insisted on really dumb positions, especially for my own feelings, etc. That looking back, I'm like, why did I ever? But it's one of those things where I can recognize that the culture I've been surrounded in, it's just normal women are just do that stupid crap all the time. But at the same time, that's why I want to do better and be better and actually practice becoming better as I go.
I'm going to give you permission to just say you're sorry and that you made a mistake, and you owe no one any more explanation beyond that. It's not a thing you have to do because you feel like you have to explain, don't you?
Yeah, normally, yes.
You feel like you have to explain, and you don't. So I'm going to say, just on behalf of the world, if they want more explanation, they will ask. By the way,
That's a fair point.
they always do.
If they want to know, yeah. Huh. It's one of
When
those
you make a
things I hadn't
mistake,
really thought about. That if they want to know more, they'll come to you and ask. Huh.
Yep. You have to submit.
Yeah.
The only reason, so men have to submit too. The only reason the Bible doesn't tell
Right.
men to submit is because we do it already. We do it automatically. It's programmed
Yeah.
in.
It's more natural.
Yeah, women
suppose.
feel the need to explain things all the time. They feel the need to have power all the
Well,
time.
I suppose
They
in
feel
a
the need to have
proper
control all the time.
structure, we would have been cultivated to do so, but because our society's lost that sort of way, we're no longer cultured, and now we have to fix ourselves or let those who don't fix die off, and so we can get back to that proper way of being again.
I think it's in women's nature to do this. That's
Yeah,
my
but
opinion. I don't know. I think women, being the frailer sex, has trouble providing for themselves and protecting themselves.
yeah,
So they
definitely.
feel desperate to have control.
No, I totally agree with that. I just think that the reason why this is such an issue now is because, at least I'm hypothesizing here, is that
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
previously or in other cultures where things aren't like this, it's just that they're raised in a way that, well, for example, like the places where they raise girls to be wife material. It's just they're raised with that mentality, so that helps counterbalance it, whereas that just hasn't happened here. In fact, the opposite, where we've been told to embrace it by the lies of feminism. And so now we either have to make a point to really work hard and go against it, on top of it already being our nature, but having it further instilled in us by the flaming feminists, as well as, yeah, it's just a lot of things on top of each other that we're working against.
Well, you have to consciously counteract women's need to have control of the situation.
Yes.
So they have to raise them that way.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm saying, is a proper society would do that. We got away from it, but hopefully we'll get back to it. Either from those who fix themselves or the others who just probably won't breed, let's be honest, to pass on their ways.
Well, I suggest you allow me to fix you here and go to the park.
Yes.
I know you're bucking back on me. I don't mind the attitude. Attitude is totally normal.
I was going to say part of it's just like reflexive.
I know it.
Nature, because I don't want to be that way. Because I do actually, I want to improve. I appreciate that you're taking the time to help me with that and everything as well.
Yeah.
So it's more just, and almost I can't help but be like pissy about it.
Oh yeah, that's fine. That's totally fine. You are allowed to be pissy. Do not think that you are in my bad graces. It's just I'm not going to allow you to do this. Do not worry about what I think about you. Worry about what is true. Worry about what I say that is true, and then be accountable to that. Be accountable to truth.
Okay.
And
that's better because there's a
don't
whole
worry about my
mindset
disposition
shift.
towards you. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just sorry. I was just kind of thinking out loud. I think there's like a whole mindset shift because a lot of these things you're saying, I just never looked at the world through that set of eyes and that perspective. And that's part of the process of shifting into a different gear in this way, I think, which is a good thing. I'm not saying it's not, just that it is a new way of thinking, experiencing, perceiving, etc.
Yeah, you will be. You will make the most out of your social interactions by following this advice. So,
Right.
Yeah, this is about the principle of just honoring your word and then having it mean something. So a lot of the issues that I find with modern people, Westerners, is that they don't consider words very important, which is why you see people on Twitter arguing about stuff that someone didn't actually say. They just imagine someone said something.
Right.
They also will say something and not give it any weight. I'll probably make a video comment. Yeah, I'll probably make a video comment to the Lotus Eaters pretty soon about this. Is that my definition of belief? Like, if you actually believe in something, is if you're willing to die for it. And if you don't if you're not actually willing to die for it, then you don't really believe it.
That's fair. Because recently I was telling a friend actually about how I think for me, I will take actions a lot more based off of my principles and values than other people around me, because growing up, I was basically preached at about principles and you guys stand up and do what's right. But then those who should have role modeled that for me, they never did. They tended to fall through and like they didn't actually practice what they were preaching.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like, well, you can't do that. I'm definitely going to stand up and do it then. And so I've gotten kind of in a habit with that. And so.
Habit of what?
Oh, just a habit of actually acting upon the principles and standing up for them instead of just saying, oh, I have these principles, but then not making good on them.
I mean, you say that like you're patting yourself on the back and then you've not lived up to your word. So I'd be a little bit more apologetic and a little less self-congratulatory. I would maybe cut yourself a slice of humble pie.
Yes.
You're getting ahead of yourself.
Yes. Okay.
You are a product of your society. You are just as bad as everybody else.
Yes.
Right now.
I didn't say I'm not.
Yeah. Well, you're saying to stand up for principles. Okay. I hear you.
Yeah,
I hear you saying stuff. I hear you saying words. I hear you saying lots of words.
Getting right back into it.
You got your head hanging pretty high right now. If I was a young apprentice to a master blacksmith and I had not lived up to my word as the young apprentice, my head would be low the whole day and I'd be thinking about it.
Yeah.
I'd be thinking about something.
I'd
be thinking maybe I should go ahead and make good on that.
Oops.
I can hear it in your voice. I just need to remind you where you're at.
Exactly.
See,
and again, I'm not.
You keep using words to puff yourself up and make yourself feel better, but it's like a dopamine thing. Like, let the actions do it. Don't even
when I
say
it. I don't mean it that way.
Okay. Well, I guess maybe then don't say it. Say it a different way. Say you're striving to. I try to. I fall short. At least I recognize that I'm falling short.
Right. I can agree to that. And because the thing is, I know there are examples in which I have done that. And I guess that's why I phrased it as I did. But obviously, there's still always more progress to be done. I'm not saying there's not.
You're
talking a lot? I know. I'm aware.
Until you've... I think there's a... I'm trying to think of how to phrase it. There's a phrase... This is not the perfect phrase, but it's like you're only as good as the last thing that you've done.
Yeah, that's fair.
So that's...
Talk means nothing if there's not the actions to support it.
No, it's the last thing you've done. Like literally the last thing that I have, what I've seen. So all those great examples of your triumphs, that's good for you. Okay. Yeah. I don't see it. I don't really care. Why would I?
Okay, I think I see what you're getting at. It's just... Hold on, it's only just now clicking, I think.
Yeah, maybe take a more humble approach to life. You are no better than the people around you. Don't even compare yourself to them. Don't even compare yourself to your upbringing. Make no excuses. You are what you are. There's an objective quality to people.
I think...
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to say... It's just... I suppose part of the defensiveness, especially so, is that when I said it, I had no intention of it being framed or felt or heard that way. So I guess there's something to be said about considering how I phrase things even normally, and I imagine this would go out to most people as well, where, and again, there with the purpose too, but I don't know. I guess to a degree there might be a lack of awareness of how things come off as opposed to how they're intended, because a lot of times
I
there
think
can be a disconnect there.
I think that you phrase it very clearly, and I don't know how you could ever have a different meaning in that. You said that people have principles and they did not live up to them, and that you
And it's true.
are.
I mean, I've made a point to do better than they did around me. Like, that's just objectively true and accurate. I know. But again, there's also, I guess, I don't know. I guess it was more just like a shock on my end where you're like, oh, you gotta be humble. It's like, well, I mean, it's just true though. And that's part of, I think, why I bounced back in that sort of way. But at the same time, I get where you're coming with, well, I can't see those things, etc., which is fair. I don't know. It's just
you focus a lot on progress you've made. All of the best people I know don't do that. We do it very rarely. We'll think like you ever there's a certain trope of like a guy who's like a multimillionaire, he's got these companies and everything, he's gone really far in life, and there's a moment where he's sitting on his like yacht with his friends and he's just looking around like, I've come a long way, haven't I?
I had one
He'll
of
do
those
that
moments.
in 15 years into his career is when he does that. You're doing it like 5 times a conversation. Stop it.
Well, this conversation, yeah.
This is the only conversation I see, so.
I think for me, there's a slight...
Don't measure your progress. Focus on what you're working on.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, overall, I do that. You just don't see it. And I think for me, there's this sort of disconnect still in my head of trying to bridge that.
How would you know? You just reflectively said a thing without even thinking about it. Like, okay, when someone says something reflectively and they're not thinking about it, like they're on autopilot, that tells me their mind state. It's a good way of measuring someone's mind. If you were more carefully worded, I would actually probably have more difficulty reading you. But the fact that came up involuntarily as like a just off the dome kind of reveals to me that that's what you're thinking about. And you've mentioned it a couple times in this conversation. So I'm going to have a lot of trouble believing that you don't have this mindset underlying most of the time. Maybe it's because you're feeling defensive and that's the mode you're in right now. And that's fine. Stop justifying yourself. Stop defending yourself. You're not being attacked. I'm not assaulting you. I'm trying to hold you accountable. You're putting up a shell around you. I'm not done talking. You're putting up a shell and you're pulling out coping mechanisms to make yourself feel better for a thing that I am saying to try to hold you accountable. Stop it. That's not a good response to being held accountable, because you're going to start doing that too. Like when you're talking in the mirror, it says like, oh man, I ate a bunch of food yesterday I shouldn't have eaten, but I've made a lot of progress and things are going well. And, I've came a long way, and other people make mistakes too. And, not everybody, I mean, I could be forgiven, everything. And it's like, no, shut up. You just ate too much.
Right. I've fallen into that trap before.
Just look in the mirror and say and you just look in the mirror and you say, better not do that again.
Right.
And now you're focusing on what you're doing. And because you focus on what you've done before, your progress you've made, to make yourself feel better about slipping up. And that is a bad coping mechanism. Just focus on doing better. So instead of like when you say, hey, I'm wrong, I'm sorry, and then you go da-da-da-da-da, that's why I want you to cut that off, because all that stuff is a coping mechanism, whether you believe it or not. It's what it is. It's because I want you to just focus on where you need to go. Like, I'm sorry, I should have done that. I will go do it as soon as possible. I will let you know. That's all. Well, that's all that was needed.
There's just focus the frustration of obviously what you're seeing now, as opposed to all the stuff you don't see, and it being like,
why would it matter what I don't see?
Because of objective truth.
What am I missing?
All the normal times when I am living differently, and this is one particular instance when we're talking and getting into it is when everything's like, well, I don't see that. It's like, well, of course not in this instance, but every other day you would if you're reporting in daily.
I mean, the thing is, I could see all that stuff and I'd probably say, hey, it's good progress. Why didn't you go to the park yet, though? I'm saying the rest of your stuff you do doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get. I just told you that you have a coping mechanism. I just told you have a coping mechanism where you focus on the progress you've made. I just told you need to focus on what you need to do. And then you try to bring the conversation back to all the progress you've made that I don't see. And you're frustrated that I don't see all that progress. I'm saying that's not what you should focus on. So I don't think you're really hearing what I'm saying. Stop focusing on the progress you've made and how far you've come. Just focus on what you need to do. The stuff that you're making progress with doesn't really matter that much.
But it does, doesn't it? No,
it doesn't. Why would it matter how far you've come?
Because it's a good thing, and it's showing that I'm still progressing and making progress.
What's the purpose of it?
To keep doing better, to know that I've done it and I can keep doing it, so I don't give up again.
Well, you should know. I mean, you don't have to quantify the stuff. You don't have to really think about it. I mean, just focus on what you're doing. What I'm saying is that
I don't feel like I normally dwell on this sort of stuff, though, is the thing. I don't normally. It's in this particular conversation happened to come up, and it seems like it's something I dwell on, but I don't think I normally do.
I never said you dwell on it. I'm just saying that you're using progress as a coping mechanism for not doing the thing that you were going to do, or that you know that you should do.
Okay.
That's all.
I will say, throughout the conversation on this particular topic, it did not seem that way from my perspective. I don't know if I interpreted something wrong, if I went totally female mode or like what, but if that had been the point the whole time, it would have been different. But as far as I understood, there was more to it.
Getting you to stop over explaining, getting you to I mean, everything I've said. So getting you to stop over explaining, getting you to stop accepting excuses, getting you to remember what you had said, like what we had agreed upon or whatever. All that stuff is everything I've been saying this entire time was just about living up to your word.
Right.
And doing what you know you need to do.
Correct. I don't argue that. I agree with that, rather.
Then why did you argue with me? You agree with me.
Well, because as I understood, there were points being made that weren't actually accurate and true. And I had to correct that.
What points would those be? I don't know. I'm just saying that you're using progress as a crutch to not focus on what you should focus on.
Like in this moment or like generally? Because I understood that
I don't know, Jen. I only know this moment.
Okay. Because I was thinking where you're saying like, oh, generally speaking, this is your character at the point, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, that's not true, though, because normally that's not the case.
Why would I need to clarify that? There's no way I could make that judgment.
Sure. But I feel like it was just kind of assumed.
Why would you assume why would you assume that I would say a thing that I couldn't possibly know?
I think that's just more how people automatically do things.
So you're arguing a point I wasn't making. All I can see is what I see.
Well, I didn't realize that at the time.
And I'm measuring you. I'm doing little tests and checking on you here to see how you react to different things. And I see the way you react, and that's all I see. And I have no question that you would react exactly the same way if I hit you on any other day. I mean, unless there's something special about today. Like if I did this any other day, it would probably be the same thing. I'm going to assume that. Probably a safe assumption.
Probably, but
yeah. So just value your word. Don't hide from it.
No, again, I agree with that. I want to be held accountable, even if I get prickly about it.
But then you start talking about principles and how you're living up to them. That's a very interesting thing to bring up.
Well, I objectively have compared to how I was raised.
What's the purpose of telling me that?
Because I thought we were talking about generalizations, because I think that's an automatic assumption that tends to be made when you're talking about, oh, you're doing this. And then people are like, oh, that means just in general. Which that's something to speak of to, more generally speaking,
well,
the culture
I just find it a little bit
in general. But
I just find it odd that you're comparing yourself to others. I just find it a little odd.
I mean, my parents.
When you have stuff you have to work on.
It influenced how I ended up being. And I had reflected upon that recently, because it only kind of occurred to me that would explain that. Just as an interesting little point.
Okay. That's an interesting point. All right, I'll try to psychoanalyze it too much, but it's a thing to say after you've failed to live up to your word, to then start talking about principles. I would not have the balls to do that.
Well, yeah. I didn't see it. It's so fascinating in a way because like it really is a totally different way of viewing everything than what I'm used to, which is
Well,
good.
you're probably
Again, it's
yeah,
not bad. I want to
exactly.
benefit from it and get into it. It's so different. It's still foreign to me. I'm sorry, I kept cutting you off.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. You're good. Well, that's why I layer it on super thick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm layering it on super thick because I'm not can't ease you into it because you have so many defensive mechanisms to weasel out of it. I'm normally not this rough on people, by the way. I have to be on you because you keep rationalizing away from things, and I need you to feel an abundance of discomfort. You should feel. So here's the root of it. You should feel viscerally uncomfortable not living up to your word. Right. Even if it's something really small, like taking the trash out, it should make you feel disgusted with yourself that you didn't do it. Because the thing that makes this woman not possible, she is a complete lack. Why is it not tracking? Oh, for goodness sake. Is it not updating?
I don't know.
Stupid internet. She is not adequately. Her problem is that she has an inadequate amount of disgust for her situation.
Right.
Right. She's doing stuff that's wrong. People should be disgusted when they fall short. There's a lack of disgust in ourselves, and it's not a thing that's easy. Like, oh well, I'll do better. It's like it should hurt, man. It should hurt.
Right. That sort of coddling is too common.
And the thing is, like, all the defensiveness there is a coping mechanism of modern women and modern men. I see this in both people. Like, this guy's not getting off easy either. Okay.
Right.
Because they don't want to feel that hurt. So they run away from the truth, and they usually use their education, their sophistication. In fact, if I was to say, like, one of the biggest damages that the public education system done is it taught sophistry to people of average to up to above average intelligence. So they weasel out of the disgust they feel. They should feel when they screw up. People get divorced and they don't feel that bad about it. Like, well, financially I'm doing okay, so I guess things are okay. Like, no, you should feel disgusted that you've been divorced. Like that should be a monumental failure. Like when my wife and I had a falling out, and I wasn't sure what was going to happen, I was like, I am so disgusted with myself. I would never marry again. Like it's just wrong. It's just wrong.
Right.
So when I see people who make mistakes and they don't put the appropriate amount of emotional weight on it, like that's what contrition is. Like, you're Catholic, you know what contrition is, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, like if someone came in a confessional and then they walk out just whistling, it's like, did they really mean that?
Exactly.
Like, where's their heart? Like, they're just using this as a transaction.
And a lot of them these days still do. I know it's one of those things where you have to make a point to really actually properly do it. Otherwise, you get in the habit of just doing it with this emptiness that isn't really worth anything.
And this actually goes back to what I was saying before about the constant forgiveness and like working on it. Oh, I'm working on it. I felt it. I asked for forgiveness and I'm working on it. And my heart's not in it, but I'm trying to get in the habit. It's like the heart is the habit. Like because the thing is, you can very easily start doing all these rituals and sacraments and attending, and your heart's and you're like waiting for your heart to be in it. It's never going to happen until you make it happen. So it's like, don't let yourself, because
you have to actually make the effort to actually try and want it in that regard. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm working on it more. It's gonna happen."
Yeah. If I wasn't feeling it, I don't go to church. And I ask myself, why don't I feel it? Let me see if I can work on it. Because if I start getting the habit of going to church and not having my heart in it, then I've just completely bastardized this whole thing.
Absolutely. Which a lot of people have done and still continue to do. I've done it in the past as well.
Yeah, and they do so with their word. So I'm not going to accept that. I want to live in a better world. You want to live in a better world. So let's start with us.
Yes.
Okay. And I think it's I didn't let you get away with this one.
Correct. As you shouldn't have.
Yeah, and I wonder if you will. First off, I don't think you're going to make the same mistake.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do, I'm going to be looking more about the heart in it. And people say like, "Oh, I can't tell what's in someone's heart." Actually, it's pretty easy to see what's in someone's heart.
In most
You
cases,
just talk to
yeah,
them.
it would be.
What you do is you catch them in an off moment, and then you see what they really are. That's why another reason why I don't really accept the whole like, well, you don't see me the rest of the time. I'm just having a bad like the bad day is who you really are. Like,
Yeah.
You could be a great husband,
Mm-hmm.
but the day you slap your wife is when we find out who you really are.
Yeah, I think usually I could agree to that in most cases, but
I judge people usually by I try to knock people off guard, and then I see what happens.
It sounds like a good tactic, yeah.
If you want to see someone's strength, watch them get up, I guess. Is what I'm saying. It's like you
watch
see
them in a moment of weakness.
Yeah, and you put them in a moment of weakness, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
In a moment of vulnerability.
Right.
It's a story trope, right? Where it's like you find out, especially like in animes and stuff, is like you defeat the enemy and then you get to learn who he really is, and he's actually not a bad guy. He has his reasons, but he overstretched, and then he joins the good guy team or something like that, right? Like, I don't judge people on their best moments. I judge people on their worst moments. That's when you find out what's really in their heart. Because when they're really vulnerable, like that's what the story of Job is. That's literally God literally destroyed this man's life to find out who he really was. He wanted to give him the absolute worst day imaginable. And that was the wager. That was actually, hey, is he truly a good servant? Like, is he really a good example? So you will, I mean, it is kind of bad, but you will be judged on your worst day, but you get chances to remake yourself. So once that worst day comes, how will you be? Like, are you going to have a fight with your husband and get really defensive and have a meandering conversation that lasts hours? Or are you just going to say, I'm really sorry, I dropped the ball. Can you give me another chance?
Right.
So an hour and a half of this conversation would have just been gone if you'd done that, by the way.
It would have, yes.
I'm not emotionally invested in you, so I'm not personally hurt that much.
Okay, good to know.
I lied to make you feel bad, so to see if I could make you feel bad, and you kind of did, and then you kind of did, and then you went and started talking about principles and stuff, and I was like, okay, she doesn't really feel that bad.
I don't know. When I said that, in my mind, it didn't. It wasn't that way.
I just didn't hear the sorrow in your voice.
Oh,
it lasted for a little bit, and then it went away again when you started. Because I started watching you just lacquer the conversation with explanations and rationalizations.
Yeah. I fell into that trap.
This is the ultimate like boomer guy, isn't it? Like, I don't know. It's just sitting there. No, it's like.
But again,
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, but again, thank you for holding me accountable and even making me squirm a bit, because even though obviously I still get defensive and all that, I do know it's something beneficial and something that I need to go through, when it's appropriate. I think a lot of people are still very uncomfortable, and obviously, like, I've learned it's one of those things we do have to face head on and be willing to say, all right, yes, I have to be uncomfortable now. If not, I'm not going to get better at all.
There you go.
But it's still difficult to do, of course.
No, and you're gonna have a reflex. That's why I'm not surprised that you didn't go to the park. I'm also not surprised that you got defensive. Actually, by the way, I find this sort of thing very cute. I think women are cute. They get like really these little explanations. They come up with stories. It's like,
men are supposed to find us cute, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It's right. It's like, I mean, no, you did. I'm gonna give you credit where credit is due. You did well. You do listen. I'm not gonna. No one will take that from you. And you are contrite. If I can keep you on focus. Now the good news is, if you can just focus on what really matters, you will be better probably overnight. If you could just get that focus.
Okay.
Do not think about the progress you've made. You do not have a lack of motivation. I think you have a lack of focus.
Oh, I definitely do. I could tell you that in other realms as well. Even with hearing, I had my hearing tested, and I was told the issue isn't with my hearing; it's just my attention. I don't hear things unless I'm fully paying attention to them. So
yes,
that is an issue.
a common problem that is easily solved. You could take a look into meditation. Try just clearing your brain out. Take
Okay.
15 minutes a day and just sit and think of nothing. And you'll be surprised at how your thoughts are completely invaded by neurotic things. I do the same thing.
Okay.
And you actually become acute when you try to clear your mind. You become acutely aware of the thoughts that intrude on you, because they will start intruding on you a lot, and you become able to discern it from your conscious thought. And you think like,
okay,
because when you're in your waking moments, fully conscious, you can't really discern what is a voluntary thought and an involuntary thought. Everything becomes and I actually see this in your speech, is that you have lots of involuntary thoughts that shoot through.
Oh yes.
And they're distracting you, and they're getting you to say things that you don't mean, and you're having trouble taking accountability of the things you say because of it. Easily solved. You'd be fine.
Yeah. Well,
good.
I know back in the day when I was still working with my my psych team, one of the things that I ended up discussing with my psychologist had to do with intrusive thoughts, which I think is a term probably most people these days know just because pop psychology, whatever. But he had to explain to me that not every thought we have is something that's genuinely our own thought. And you have to be able to say that one isn't one that's actually, my actual self or thing. And I have, even if it's scary, I have to be able to say, that's not really me. I have to let it go. I'm not of that nature, that's something I actually think or want to act on. And I think this kind of just extrapolates upon that to a more regular daily sort of instance.
I think it's the exact same phenomena. Voluntary thoughts or involuntary thoughts are intrusive thoughts. Same thing. I would suggest for you, because when I was learning how to do push-ups, like do a lot of push-ups, like 60 push-ups in a row, I didn't actually worry too much about how long I've been doing this for and how much progress I made and how fast it was. I was just thinking about the number I was shooting for that night.
Okay.
That is the extent to which you need to think about things to actually solve them.
Okay.
And you may want to consider that every other thought you have is an intrusive thought, and those intrusive thoughts are working subconsciously, like involuntarily, as a coping mechanism. Like your brain is coping without you being consciously aware of it. I don't know if your subconscious is trying to comfort you, but comfort is not what you need right now if you want growth.
Right.
So,
well, comfort's kind of an antithesis to growth, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't get comfortable, right?
Right.
So, trying to think of, you definitely need to go to a park if you show up there. I mean, obviously your heart needs to be in it, right? So if you just showed up there in the parking lot, took a picture of yourself, picture of the sign, and then left, you'd know in your heart that's dishonest. So
absolutely.
Wouldn't
I'd feel bad about that. It'd be worse. I mean, it'd be worse than just not going. In my opinion.
Yeah, it'd be a box checking for sure.
Yeah, which is worse because that's totally empty.
So I'd say go find a park you want to go to. I'm gonna go on record and say I don't care which one.
Okay.
It's just got to be someplace that you think is going to be better than where you are now. Demographic.
That I don't normally go to.
Correct. Well, that's better than where you're going to now would, by definition, be someplace you wouldn't normally go to. Yeah, I guess
it would be.
Yeah, it's all good. The idea is that you were there to just be in a different place and live a different life for a little while. Just like Lisa Simpson from that episode of Simpsons where she was a different person for a bit.
Okay.
I do that all the time. Life is, there's no our true selves, we don't really learn who that is for a long time. And it's through experience, like wearing different masks and being different people and trying different things. Only then do you really understand who you really are. And doubly so for women.
Right.
So like traveling to England is a really good idea. Try that on. Traveling to the next town over is even better. Go to a high-end grocery store that's in the rich part of town once just to try it. I don't know. Go take a ballroom dancing class. just to see who's there. I'll get into hobbies just to see what kind of freaks I meet. I'm about to get into ham radio. I just want to see what that looks like.
Right.
You know, there's
Okay.
you got to be a bit of an explorer, and
Yeah.
and you can't blame. I mean, you could blame society for not creating the social structures that would give you everything you wanted, but you're not entitled to any social structures. You're not owed anything.
Correct. Yeah. It's just one of those things that you can acknowledge it makes it more difficult, but you still have to put in the effort.
Yep, you're gonna have to make up for that. So if you want change to be in this world, you have to start with yourself.
Yeah.
So go out and be a brave explorer.
Woo.
Uh,
If I were
yeah,
to get
exactly.
a grade for this bit of the stream, what would my grade be?
A,
Why?
because you've done a good job, I think.
Oh,
I can't ask you to be perfect. I can only ask you to be honest with yourself, and you have been. That's the only thing I
Okay.
can ever ask of anybody.
yeah.
People are going to screw up. People are going to make mistakes. But honesty and integrity are the only things that actually make anyone valuable, in my estimation. Everything
Okay.
starts from there. That's like
Right.
what I said
right.
before. Accountability was the foundation of everyone,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I harp on keeping your word.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, A for this time.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a provisional A. Please go to a park. Go and have
I
fun.
will.
Go and just have fun.
Yeah.
Bring a picnic. Sit and have a picnic. Like if you're gonna do the good giving up, well, it's time to do all those nice things that you wish a husband would do with you. Just do it with yourself. Go out and have a nice picnic, little sandwich, make yourself a little treat. Get some nice, get a little ice pack with some strawberries. So you have
Last
cold
time-
strawberries and cream. I don't know, whatever you want.
Last time I had a picnic was years ago. It was fun though, but it was just me. But
There you go. Yeah,
hadn't even considered.
there you go. Exactly. Well, start considering. Actually, this is the thing that my wife is working on too. Is that she's trying to think of things that she likes because she doesn't think
Yeah.
about it.
Right.
So what do you like? What's your pleasure? Treat yourself like your own best friend. What would you wish your best friend would do for you? Or if you had a best friend who you just loved and adored and admired, you pick up the phone, you call them up and says, "Hey, Lindsay, today we're going to blank." Fill in that blank, and that's what you're doing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I just, it's a little bit lost in thought of like, what would it be? So
I know, right? We don't really think about that too much. So start thinking of that. You see what happens. Only good things can happen when you're living happy and joyously.
right.
So
Yeah.
bring a Bible,
glad.
read the Bible
Yeah.
while you're there.
Yeah.
You might. I mean, the Bible would probably keep creeps away. To be honest,
Yeah.
that'd be hilarious if you just grab some religious literature from like from your Catholic church and just like start handing it to people you want to leave alone. So use it as repellent, like just like a
it
cross.
would
Just,
work.
Satan, go away.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyways, no, you're good. You're good. You're good. It's all good.
I'm glad we had this discussion in exchange.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I am not going to read a thing you send me until you go to this park.
Okay.
So go to it soon.
Yes.
There you go. And
I'll tag
proud.
you
All right.
on Twitter.
there you go. Perfect. Tag me on Twitter. I will like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
and repost it. All right, we're gonna end this
okay.
broadcast. I'll be in the backstage, so no worries. All right, guys. Later. Oh, and if anyone's still here or watches this part, LadyOLinden, you see her go to her Twitter. It's great. It's fun.
Yes,
She's commenting on all kinds of awesome relationship stuff.
Thank you.
She's putting more thought into Pearly Things tweets than Pearly Things probably is.
I'll take it.
All right, see ya.